We're going to go ahead and start. It's 5:30. Today is Monday, January 27th. And we will start this commission meeting by standing, please. And the invocation will be given by Commissioner Hurley.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Lord in heaven, we're so very thankful for the ability and the opportunity to come once again to be about the city of Leesburg's business. We're thankful today for a new year, for new opportunities, new promises. Today, as we go about our business, we ask for your guidance, your wisdom, your discernment, that everything we do be partial and that everything we do be fair within our community that serves all of us. We pray today for all of our men and women who are serving in the military away from their homes right now to afford us the opportunities, liberties that we have to even do what we're doing tonight. We ask you to keep your hand upon all of our public safety officials who are watching out for us and taking care of us in every aspect that we need their help. We pray tonight, Lord, that you continue to bless us. Let harmony and unity prevail. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you who are following on an agenda, item 6, please, we need some quiet in here. Item 6A to 6E will not be heard tonight. This is on the villages. Also, item 5C8 is being pulled tonight. There are no proclamations. There are no presentations. We start with public comment. Now, I ask you, for the people that are here about the teen center, please save your comments until that item comes up, because that's going to be most of the folks here. Now, are there any other public comments which anybody needs to make? You're allowed 3 minutes. If you would come up to the podium and give your name, and we might not discuss it tonight, but it will be heard by the commission. So is there anybody who'd like to say anything tonight for everything except the teen center? Okay. I'm going to move on to city commission meeting minutes. Is there anything that the commission wants to have pulled tonight? Nothing? I'd like to have B3 pulled and C2. You have a motion to approve everything else that's on there?
Move to approve the remaining items.
Give a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Mayor Dennison?
Yes. Okay, item B3. Somebody introduce, please?
I'll introduce, ask me read by title only.
Thank you.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a contract change order with C&M Dredging, Inc. for additional dredging on the Lake Lorraine project for an amount of $451,998.40 and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
The reason I asked to have this pulled, I see that we gave it to the low bidder. However, we've got a adjustment now of $451,000. Has anybody been checking the amount of dredging that has gone on previously, and why was it so short on the bid?
Well, it actually wasn't short. We reduced the contract amount. The original bid that came in was for $1,700,000, and we adjusted that down during the commission meeting, and actually spoke about an opportunity to bring it back once we got closer toward the end of the project. The original quantity that we estimated was 53,000 cubic yards. We approved removal of 30,000 cubic yards, and this change order then approves the removal of another 20,000. So we've actually reduced the total amount by 3,000. And the disposal costs are quite a bit less than we originally were told. So that's why the overall contract is about $180,000 lower than the original proposal.
Is this the final adjustment then?
Yes.
Okay, so this will end that contract. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please. Oh,
I think Commissioner Christian. Second. I will say it looks great so far. The lake looks a whole lot better than it did before.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Dennison?
yes. Item C2, would somebody introduce, please?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a renewal lease agreement between the City of Leesburg and Mid-Florida Chapter 534 Experimental Aircraft Association and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
The reason I asked this to be pulled is not to question the renewal of the lease or the extension. It's to congratulate the folks that are in the Experimental Aviation Club. They, this week, were named a silver member, and this is a national award that they have received over at Leesburg Airport. They do a tremendous amount of work with the Air Cadets, with the Boys and Girl Scouts, and they've really been extremely well in servicing all our kids and helping them earn their merit badges and whatnot. So congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. We do have several of our youth program in the house tonight. If I could get those people to stand up, please, all the youth that are in our youth aviation group. Here you go. These people are learning how to build airplanes. They're learning how to fly airplanes, and they've been a great deal of fun to work with. And that could not be accomplished without the next group I'd like to stand up, and that would be our EAA volunteers. Please, if you are in EAA 534 here in support of the kids in the hangar. It's truly an incredible job that they've done. We have come so far in 5 years. I mean, oh golly, we were less than a third the size 5 years ago. There was no youth program. Young Eagles was a challenge. Now we've got projects, we got kids working on airplanes, and they're there almost every Saturday morning. We do welcome anybody, particularly commissioners, city officials. Come about 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, the EAA hangar off Wilco Drive. If you'll come in, take a look at what we're doing, we would be happy to have you. We do serve a free lunch for anybody that shows up to volunteer or just see it, and we'd really encourage you to come and see what these kids are doing. It's nothing short of remarkable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Commissioner Hurley?
Hang on just a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello?
Yes.
I simply want to offer a quote that I think extending the lease really represents. Communities grow great when the elders plant trees whose fruit they will never taste and whose shade they will never sit in. Supporting community development programs like EAA 534 is a great way to both support the youth of Leesburg in educational and recreational opportunities, as well as to provide a great community source for some of the other people such as myself who just like getting together and getting our hands dirty, learning how to build things. I would second Joel's invitation. Please come out. Remember, it's not, get directions to the administration, Leesburg Administrative Building, and then it's just a right at the airport.
Could I have your name, please, sir? Your name?
My name is Alaric Schulte.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioners, anything? Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Mayor Dennison?
Yes. We're now moving to public hearings and non-routine items. The first one is 6F. Would somebody like to introduce, please?
I'll introduce, ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance amending future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the city of Leesburg, Florida, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 38.6 plus minus acres from institutional to estate for a property generally located east of US Highway 27 and south of Highland Lakes Boulevard, as legally described in Section 24, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
First reading.
First
Oh,
reading.
first
First reading. Okay. Any comments, Commissioner? Commissioner Christian? Okay. Anything from the audience? This is Windsong Phase 2, first reading. This will move over to February 10th for the second reading. Okay, same thing with Windsong, the next one. This will be 6G. Would somebody like to introduce, please?
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the city of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 38.6 plus minus acres from PUD planned unit development to PUD planned unit development to allow for single-family residential development for property generally located east of US Highway 27 and south of Highland Lakes Boulevard, as legally described in Section 24, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Commissioners, anything? No? Commissioner Christian? Any comments from the audience? This will lay over also until February 10th. Again, this is another part of Windsong Phase 2. 6H. Would somebody like to introduce, please?
Introduce and recommend, read by title only, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending the comprehensive plan of the city of Leesburg, Florida, changing the future land use designation of certain property containing approximately 2.13 acres from Lake County urban low density to city of Leesburg general commercial for property generally located south of Florida's Turnpike and west of US Highway 27, as legally described in Section 7, Township 20 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
This is the first reading. Any comments? My only question on this, there seems to be a serious problem getting water out to this property. What is our status on that? This is the surgery center.
Good evening, Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. There's a water line that the hospital
Get
built.
closer to the microphone.
There's a water line that the hospital built that goes from the city limits down to the hospital that's right across the street.
Right.
And then there's also, and I'd have to talk to Director Maudlin from Public Works, but there's also, I believe, water available down in that area on the other side of the road coming up from it's not Scottish Highlands, is it? The subdivision immediately south. So there is water in the area.
Okay, it was my understanding at Royal Highlands, we were not able to put another tap on that. So we are able to do that and expend it across from the emergency room?
Prior to being able to develop, they will have to work all those issues out.
Okay,
So
thank you very much.
good.
For those of you wondering, we are looking at somebody buying property down south of the Turnpike entrance, right across from the emergency room that was built there a year or so ago, and this will be an emergency surgery center.
Commissioner, when the emergency center was built, the first one, they extended a line that connected the Highland Lakes plant
Right.
all the way down to Bluegill Road, which is their facility. So
Okay,
the water that's coming from the hospital isn't coming directly from the Royal Highlands CUP. So the issues, and there is an ordinance, a city ordinance, that prohibited additional connections in Royal Highlands. It's been in place for quite a while, and it's probably something we should go back and take a look at because we
Let me interrupt, just to be brief, because your question, I don't know if everybody can hear me, then your question kind of threw me for a loop, because in all honesty, I didn't think we had a water problem. We've got a sewer problem. So the water issue, I think, will be worked out.
Okay.
And part of that was the pioneering agreement we did to get the water line down 27. So water's good. The other side of the equation is sewer is an issue. And you commissioned a study with Joan Edmonds, right? Was it Joan Edmonds?
Yes. No,
It
that's
was
correct.
with Jones Edmond. So we're now in the process of looking at how we address sewer collection down South 27.
Okay.
We think time span and all that, we'll get the correct answer and we'll get the fix. So the issue, water's okay, sewer's a problem, and sewer's being addressed by the study you already commissioned. That's the high-level version.
Thank you. That was first reading. We will again bring this up for second reading on February 24th. Okay, aye, please. Somebody
Introduced
in-
and has to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, rezoning approximately 2.13 acres from Lake County A Agricultural District to City SPUD, Small Planned Unit Development, for a property generally located south of Florida's Turnpike and west of U.S. Highway 27, as legally described in Section 7, Township 21 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
This also is first reading. Are there any comments on this one? Okay, this will be moved to February 24th. Thank you. Next one is J.
I'll introduce and has to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, vacating approximately 1,270 square foot section of easement consisting of an area approximately 10 feet wide by 127 feet long. Said property generally located on Lot 16, Live Oak Ridge, as recorded in Plat Book 13, page 24 of the Public Records of Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
This is first reading. Are there any feedback from commissioners? All right, this one will be moved to February 10th. K. Someone like to introduce, please?
I'll introduce, ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, vacating property generally located on First Street roadway between Main Street and Magnolia Street, as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 19 of the Public Records of Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Do you have some comments on this one? So I'm certainly very supportive of the idea that they want to do with two caveats. One is I would like, before it comes back on second reading, if staff could explore with Beacon staff if there's a way where maybe we could do this as like a landscape easement instead of deeding over the property to accomplish the same thing, but you know, if something changes well beyond what any of us, either party could envision, maybe that would give us a little more flexibility on the city side. And the second is that since we're so close to the master plan, if maybe we could line up the second reading with the approval of the master plan, just in case something completely unexpected happens. I would just hate to approve this and then have the master plan conflict with it, which it doesn't appear to, but just to be safe.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, one comment I have is, I know we all have one of these, what old gym used to be. I know we say it's public access, but it's very hard for me as a public citizen to feel like I can walk through that. So I would like if we can get us something, some signage open to the public is welcome, even lit, because I was down at the Christmas stroll and I personally looked and it didn't seem like I could walk through that dark entryway, because if you're not from Leesburg, you don't know that you can walk through there. So I would like to see us put some type of signage that the public know that they can access that walkway.
Okay.
And you can check with Beacon Al and make sure they're okay with that. But.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I apologize, my voice, I'm probably going to lose it here. I was just going to piggyback off their comment. I agree with Dan on the easement. My question and comment is, can we not, in consideration of doing this, not go back and amend the agreement on Palmetto Street where we vacated and make the two consistent, make them both a landscape or some
You
form
know,
of easement.
I can't understand you.
I think I understood.
I'm
Keep
sorry.
me from
I'm
having to
sorry.
repeat, I think what the commissioner asked to save his voice for probably the next issue, but it was, I think he's good with the concept, but he was asking, can we marry the Second Street concept with the dedication that we already gave? And my guess is Fred will probably say no to that unless we have some type of agreement where that right-of-way that we vacated comes back to us.
Yeah, the right-of-way would have to be rededicated on Palmetto because it's already gone.
Yeah.
If you have it as you do on First Street, then you can condition it as you wish, but once it's gone, it's gone. That was Commissioner Roebuck's point. Let's not do that over again.
I would say in this case.
But they could deed it back to us at this point, and then we could give them an easement.
Yeah,
Could
but
they not?
I don't wanna argue their point, but we deeded it, we gave it to them. They spent money in there, so they're not gonna be in a position to, out of just benevolence, just to write up an agreement and hand it right back to us with an easement with their investment in there. So I think that's Commissioner Roebuck's point is, before we do that again, let's talk easement. Now, they may be open to that. We might have the stick here to say, hey, let's do easement versus grant, and in exchange, we gotta rewrite the world. They may be open to that, so I'll run it up the flagpole with them.
I just saw a chance to be consistent with
Yeah.
both of them.
I mean, that could be the stick that you're
Yeah.
looking for.
You understand
So,
my point. Thank you.
But in any case, I think Commissioner did mention to push it off until, and bring it back with the master plan. And we're okay with that, as long as we advertise it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's doable. It just would require them to give up something they already have.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and I guess I'm saying they need something from us now, so now is the time to fix it. If that makes sense.
Well, I will be in touch with the folks from Beacon.
Okay.
And they're here if they.
Yes, I see a gentleman in the back from Beacon.
Are you guys good for now? I tried to get with George earlier today, and I'm talking to him right now.
Okay. So, go through with this?
Well, you did what you need to do. You made a motion to bring it back when we do the master plan.
Exactly.
And then you gave me some instruction to when we talk about this. I'll go back and I'll get back with the folks from Beacon and try to work the easement trade versus the grant.
So we will bring back this item?
It'll come back with the master plan.
Yes.
And I'll actually agendize it so it's after the master plan.
Okay. So that is on hold for right now. Okay, L. Would somebody like to introduce, please?
I'll introduce, and that's be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 2.13 acres, being generally located south of Florida's Turnpike and west of U.S. Highway 27, lying in Section 7, Township 21 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 3, and providing an effective date.
This is the first reading. Are there any comments from the commission? Commissioner Christian. This also deals with annexing the property that the new surgery center would be on. So this will be held over until February 24th for the second reading. M. Somebody like to introduce, please?
Okay, good meeting. It's a good meeting, that's it, right?
Yeah, I don't think you want to tell the folks here that we just canceled everything, so go ahead.
I'll introduce, and that's be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the city manager to inform Lake County CDBG of the city's intent to build a teen enrichment center at the Leesburg Gymnasium site and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Is there a second? You need a second so we can discuss.
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'm going to ask you first for comments and discussion on this.
Obviously, I'm struggling to speak. I would like to deallocate this, postpone this project. The community is too divided. I'd like to see the community come together in agreement on, anything we do for our youth, whether it's the teen center or other buildings. The Boys Girls Club, who is considering partnering with us, they want the community in agreement. So, I think they're getting a little nervous on us. And I just think we need to back up and reevaluate all options. I know right now we're talking about, a facility at Griffin, the Faith World. We have, 2 schools up on Griffin. We have, a high school and 2 other schools down on South Street. Just to, stir it up a little bit more. One idea that's been had suggested to me, and it has a long way to go, is maybe 2 locations. I know it's not efficient to have 2 locations, but it's just an idea I throw out there with the community so divided. I do see the positives for Faith World. I've come a long way on that. If we could buy it at the right price, I understand why we're looking at it. I don't want to go down that path. Well, we can on price or tonight, but I'll just stop right there. The community is divided, and I'd like to slow this thing down and find a way, and let the parties talk and find a way for everybody to come together and agree on this so that our community will support this building if we're going to spend this kind of money. So be happy that my voice is trained. I'll stop right there.
Thank you. Commissioner Roebuck.
So I'm pretty much where I was at the end of the last meeting, that there's a number on Faith World where I would be comfortable. It's not $1 million, but there's a number I would be comfortable with, contingent on a full inspection to make sure that there are no unforeseen construction issues. And then if we don't go that route, I'm not comfortable moving forward today with the new one after hearing the construction figures. I was thinking we were going to be, 175, and that number has now gone up to 250 plus site work. So to do that, I'd be more comfortable kind of doing what Commissioner Peters just said, and that's stopping. Maybe that's a study trying to bring people together and get all the data. But if we're talking about spending that type of money, I don't think the community is there yet, and neither am I. So those are kind of the two ways I could go.
Commissioner Hurley?
Sure. I think, obviously, my position's probably still where I was last time when we spoke on this. As far as, there's been a lot of conversation and a lot of meetings in the last 2 weeks. I do know a couple things that when I was looking over this with the numbers, and I know that Al and the staff is probably using an estimated amount when they're talking about renovations. I do know they said that the new facility would require sprinklers system to be installed to bring it to code, and I think that was like $40,000 to bring sprinklers in there. And then they were looking at having to redo the bathrooms to make them larger to fit the codes for the teen center or youth center, whatever it may be. And knowing the structure and how it's all laid out, where the piping runs actually from outside right into there, the cost is just, I think, a little exorbitant. I don't think we're anywhere in the ballpark of $200,000 to $250,000 in renovations. Having said that, for me, it remains the same. I've had a lot of calls. I don't know everybody's name, so, even people who may be here today, asking me where I stood on this and why my contention to push forward with buying the church facility, it remains the same. You know, we've been talking about the importance and the great need in our community, and every time somebody called me today to ask me why I supported doing this instead of waiting 2 or 3 years down the road and building anew, I would always ask them, can I ask you a question? And that question is, do you feel that we need a teen center? And of course it was a resounding yes. And then I would ask, why do you feel that we need a teen center? And every one of them told me the same thing. We have an issue with our kids that are having influences in other areas that are taking them down the wrong road. We have teenage girls that are getting pregnant. We need some place where they can get support and counseling. We have an issue with drugs with our teens, and we have an issue with our teens getting into levels of crime. And so I agreed with every one of those. That's why we're here tonight. It's why we need it. For me, when I started proposing this, it was the same 6 months ago before this building, 2 weeks ago, and today. If that need is that strong, why would we take 2 or 3 years before we have a facility, and why would we risk losing all those kids we're going to lose in the next 3 years? If every week, month, and year that goes by, we lose another child to crime, teen pregnancy, drug overdose, whatever it may be, how do we put a limit on, well, we want a new building, we want it to be state of the art, or whatever words you want to use, and we want it, 3 years from now, so let's not worry about, until then, we'll start worrying about the kids. We've got the money. We ended up with a location that was centrally located on the 5 schools. 1.2 miles covers every single school in that area. We have the high school kids, which this is directed towards, could walk to it down Vine Street. So yes, to me, it was we can move into that building in 60 days and have a teen center and start facilitating, take care of our youth, giving them mentoring, helping them with their homework, giving them classes, recreation, projects, and things to do. Or we can simply sit back for another 2 or 3 years, and then who in this room is going to know somebody that we lost? So I think for me, that's the heaviest issue, is if I have a facility and I can do it now, why wouldn't I? The second point for me was obviously, if we can spend less than $1 million now, take the other $1.5 million, $2 million that's left over and do additional capital improvements into the community that gives us additional things that maybe support youth or elderly or whatever it may be, then that's a win for us as well, because we obviously can have additional projects instead of waiting an additional 3, 6, 9 years before we have a couple $1 million again to do stuff. So, I haven't changed my position on that. Now, I did have some conversations, as Commissioner Peterson was saying, and I did talk to the Boys and Girls Club. I don't know if they talked to any of the other commissioners that are here, but I did speak with some of the Boys and Girls Club, and when it was brought to me with the idea of 2 locations, the way my understanding was, and I'll just make it this, one of the things that was said was either one of these facilities, we're looking at 10,000 square foot facilities that are going to house maybe a program that would accommodate up to 200 young people, kids, whatever it may be. One of the biggest problems that anybody who runs programs like this say is they need enough space to separate youth from the teens. And so that facility gives them enough. Well, when you separate that, you obviously reduce the number of teens that can come, and you reduce the number of youth that can come, because you're still maxed out at 200. So let's say you ended up with 100 each, and we both know that we have more than 100 teens that need help, and we have more than 100 youth that need help, whether it's because they live in a single family parent, need somebody to help them with homework or tutoring. We just have a larger need than that. So, the idea came up, what if we took the portion of the money, and the churches obviously said that they are willing to negotiate on that price below the 2 appraisals that we spent all that money to get, but why not buy one that accommodates both of those and have your 2 programs until you get to that point 2 or 3 years from now? So you spend $900,000, whatever it is, and you buy this one, and you start your program now, today, for our kids that need it. And then in 3 years, when you can build your new one, you separate your 13 to 18 in the teen center, and now they can do 200 youth, and you separate 8 to 12s in the Boys and Girls Club program. So that one does, to me, make some sense. You could go two ways. I'm open, but I obviously feel that we need something right now, and I don't subscribe to the mentality that if we can't do it the way we want, then we don't do nothing at all, because I don't think there's one child out there that deserves to be told that until we're happy with what we do, we're going to just wait, and hopefully you're still around.
Thank you. Commissioner Christian.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to pass these out to the commissioners and our city clerk. And for me, this is something that I worked on for many years. This didn't start from me 6 months ago or a year ago. In fact, I was probably the one that was agitating everyone up here about the need for a teen center. I wish we had the same enthusiasm 4 or 5 years ago. Now, we talk about consensus, we talk about working together. What we're not saying here tonight is a few months ago, in a Carver Heights meeting in the Mount Clair area, the community said in a neighborhood meeting, we need something outside of sports for our children to do, something like performing arts, dance, etc. We then had the same discussion at the city council. There was a building on Griffin Road that I presented to the commission at that time with several groups from the community that worked with kids already who said they will help partner with the city of Leesburg. We got to the point, I think Commissioner Peterson was coming on the council. It was a discussion about why did we not include the Boys and Girls Club in the proposal. Staff had went out, they had programmed the building, every day was programmed, and so Commissioner Peterson said, why can't we include the Boys and Girls Club? We all graciously said include the Boys and Girls Club. Subsequent meeting came back, the Boys and Girls Club was preferred choice, so the other groups who had been working, simply we told them we'll find you another location, and we all a 5-0 vote, even though it was my project that I brought to the council. I begged them to do it. Because of consensus, I voted with the group to put the Boys and Girls Club to be an immediate need for our kids. So let's say that. There's already a program in Leesburg that we just gave a city building for the Boys and Girls Club to work with our youth right now. So for this rush stuff, and I think our city manager gave us a number, it would take 2 years, and we start now with RFQ to have this building finished, so 2 years. So a lot of misinformation is going out on Facebook, 3 to 4 years, 2 years. I think Commissioner Roebuck said he was a little nervous about the construction numbers of new construction. But we do have something. Now let's go back to the last meeting. This is our city manager. This came as a heavy load because the meeting was packed with people, so we had to move here. We instructed our city manager. We gave him 4 options. City manager, you're the manager of our city. Go out and explore these 4 options and bring us a recommendation. His recommendation came back to say, build a new teen center beside the gymnasium, and the Boys and Girls Club will operate the facility, which cuts away the operational costs. They're going to contribute $500,000, the grant for $50,000 from the county that I personally went over, and I sold them the vision of a teen center April 2nd, 2019. So it's not new for me. So I've been selling this vision not just to the council, to the community, but also to the county. So the $850 came from the county. Now, we probably wouldn't be here if the county told us 9 months ago, you can put it anywhere in Leesburg. But we just found this out right before the last meeting. So that teen concept, I handed out a plan from Jacksonville. The Malley Valley Washington Youth Foundation breaks ground for the new Club 904 Teen Center. The first page highlights the entire project is teen-driven, as teens in the program were involved with the architect and the initial building design, develop a name and logo. And that's one thing I think we miss. We have not encouraged our teenagers to be a part of our project. Page 2 shows a state-of-the-art facility, just like this building, something we can be proud of and say that's Leesburg, something that looks like Leesburg would happen. Now you go to the 3rd page, it says Teen Center features. If you notice, the new Teen Center is right beside the Youth Center and the Emmett Reed Center. Most cities, when you talk about visionary leadership, they don't buy buildings or build buildings with no room to grow. A visionary leader says, what is this gonna look like 20 years from now? Leesburg is growing. Can this teen center grow? You know, being the one that pushed the gymnasium on 6 acres of land, we're not having a discussion because the visionary leaders at that time said we need more than 1 acre of land because Leesburg is going to grow, our dynamics going to change, and we're going to need room. So we don't have to go buy land. We already own the land with outdoor basketball courts, playground, existing facilities. That's what cities do. They vision, thought process, leadership. We rise above politics and say not because he wants it or she wants it, but what's best for Leesburg. Can you imagine the Boys and Girls Club at the teen center, the city gymnasium next door, and your kid is at the teen center but needs to play basketball? He can walk to the gymnasium and play basketball, and parents don't have to get off work and rush to the teen center. They can walk right to, now that's the cohesiveness of the Boys and Girls Club and city partnership. You want to have diverse in our sports program, we want to have different type of kids use our program. Put them beside each other and let our youth workers who do this every day do this. Now, we had a lot of talk about location. Well, I called Pastor Scruggs today because the Genesis Center is right down the road from the Faith World facility. We all say location, it's by the schools. But the reality is, talk to people who do this on a daily basis. Kids don't walk to youth programs. They're bussed in. Pastor Scruggs, he's here tonight. He can verify 11 kids walked to the center. 25 middle schools were picked up. 75 to 85 kids, elementary was picked up. That's 10% walking, 90% being transported. I run child care facilities. I pick kids up and bring them to that facility. Our police department, if you ever saw in the afternoon Oak Park and Leesburg Elementary walking home, you see fights, you see all type of behavior that we have to call our police department to come out and help kids walk home. Carver Middle, same thing from Beverly Shores and Carver. So it's not about the location not shipping the primary source, because whoever's running it are going to have to transport the kids anyway. So I asked the question. The Carver Heights community, people made a big deal. I think one comment on Facebook today was, what an awful neighborhood. Awful neighborhood. And if that's an awful neighborhood, we should, as this commission, want to change perception of part of our city. We are people that I know who live in Carver Heights, invest in Carver Heights, and think it's a wonderful community of cohesiveness. So let's not pit neighborhood against neighborhood, race against race. Even somebody said, who was the person that disagreed with buying the Faith World Center? One commissioner, the CDC, and the NAACP. There were a lot of people who came to that microphone that had no affiliation with NAACP or the CDC or wasn't a commissioner. Visionary leadership says, what does Leesburg get for a new facility? It provides growth and opportunity, a state-of-the-art design, energy-efficient facility. It makes a bold statement to future generations, just like this building does. We're going to give you the best. And we have the money. Our city manager even said last meeting he could find $3 million to build a facility if he had to, so the money is there. Let's go back now. Leesburg, as this commission, we tucked aside about $20 million. $20 million. Am I correct, city manager, somewhere in there? About 15 million. Okay, this building, 9 million. We spent about, what, 12 or 13 million in Venetian Gardens? 13 million. We got a pool coming, $4.5 million here. And so nothing goes past Main Street. So you got to ask yourself, why would we not put 1.5 in the budget? 500,000 comes from the Boys and Girls Club. 850,000 comes from a grant. We can get a $3 million building, damn, maybe a little more, for $1.5 million, a little bit more. So who wouldn't get a state-of-the-art building, a $3 million building, for $1.5 or $1.8 million? I think for Leesburg, for us to say we're going to do anything different is a disservice to our entire city, because what we've been building from the Resource Center to this facility has been state-of-the-art. It's been built for generations to come, and I don't think because we're dealing with our poorest, our most vulnerable citizen, that we should do anything less. If you look at that facility, you look at the design of this facility, this teen center, I want y'all to look at it. Because when you build a facility, you build it with the end result. If you look, when you come into the lobby, you see straight through the building. There are no hidden spots. There are no rooms around where kids can hide and do what kids do negatively. So when you build and design a building, you build it for the end user. That's the importance of building a new teen center. Our city manager, we tasked him. He went to Orlando. He looked at a Boys and Girls Club. He saw what a design could be that's built for the end user. So when you build it for an end user, you build it for teenagers and children, and you build it so that the staff can properly monitor kids so we don't have issues later on. That's why you build a new facility, especially when you can afford it. In Leesburg, we can afford it. I don't think we should do anything less. Now, if we have to wait, I still say if we're not going to do it the right way, we should wait. Guess what? Nobody asks Butler Street. Nobody asks Jobbins. Nobody asks Longo. Nobody asks Vine Street. Do you want a teen center in your backyard? I got one community saying, please bring it. I got another community saying, nobody asked me anything. So again, ask the question, would you want this in your backyard? Not when you go to church, not when you go to the store, but would you want this in your backyard where you live, where kids are walking by your house every day, horse playing? The question is, Carver Heights community has been meeting for 20 years. This has been in that community redevelopment plan. So again, when it came, this is nothing new for the Carver Heights redevelopment community. This has been the plan for years. For years. Is it really fair for you to tell community members, come out, redevelop your community, tell the city what you think is best, then we say, you know what, like we did in the old day, we know what's best for you. We haven't talked to any youth leaders. We haven't talked to Pastor Scruggs. We've been there for 20 plus years in Leesburg. Why have we had that conversation? Why haven't we talked to our kids? Here we are now, ready to make a major decision, and we're boiled down in which is better. What community deserves it? Let's make it racial. Let's divide everybody. Why not bring everybody together and say, let's do best for Leesburg? I would just ask the question, if it was one of anybody else, would we feel the same way? That's what I asked that question. So tonight, we tasked our city manager. He researched it, and he brought back a recommendation. He's our guy. This is who we pay to go out and search it, rise above what John wants, what Dan wants, what Jay wants, what Elise wants, and what Mike wants. What's best for Leesburg? This city manager did that. We asked him to do it. He heard us at the last meeting. He brought back a recommendation. What are we going to do with it? That's all I have, man.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Commissioner Christian just mentioned Al coming back with a plan, having researched these things. I'm going to ask Al to give you that information from that plan and what he found out. So, please, Al Minner.
Mayor, can I say one question just for clarification? I just want to be very clear, and I'm very glad that Commissioner Christian brought up staff recommendation, because 2 weeks ago when we sat here, we had staff recommendation. And when the commission as a whole said they thought it was too much money, we sent the city manager at that time to go find us what an option was. So don't come in here tonight saying 2 weeks ago staff didn't have a clue in the world what to do, but tonight they're a bunch of geniuses. Let's have some kind of consistency.
Just so we're not.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
We're not in our same house. So who's running the computer? Todd, is that you? Victoria. Oh, okay, cool, Victoria. Will you go to page, I think it's 459. I think you got it up there. And we'll start with the concepts. The first thing I'm going to say, and not to be political or pit commissioner against commissioner or community against community, my original recommendation to this body was to buy the Faith World Church. Last week or 2 weeks ago, my thought that I expressed to the commission was that in buying that facility, overpriced or not, however the commission felt about that, for the city financially, I thought it made a lot of sense. I thought and recommended to the commission 2 weeks ago that it saved us money and accomplished a goal. Through that public process, this body tabled that decision and didn't accept it. So that causes reevaluation, good or bad, however you take it. I think my job is to facilitate things being accomplished. And I'll remind the commission before going into my presentation that I put together for you, I don't think government is a business. I think we try to function as prudently and financially possible, but politics does get involved, feelings do get involved, and there's 5 people who are elected to this body, and each and every one of you, I commend you, because I think our goals have been, for the last 6 years since I've been here, very united, and I think incredibly we've come to that 6 different directions. So the first one was, yeah, go buy a facility. And in that you can accomplish. Now, add the political process in there, and I will use the word political, and I use it in a good context. Politics is the art of compromise and finding middle ground and working together and having a blended outcome. If you're in my department head meetings, you will hear me, and they always laugh at me, but it's probably one of the most serious things I ever say. It's when we get into these situations, we need to acquiesce to the collective wisdom of the governing body. And so that is different than a business. Okay, having said that, I did my homework as directed by the commission from the meeting. And there's 4 concepts I felt. And now too, as a week has transpired since we put this together, my thanks to Travis because he helped me with this. Travis Reimer, our rec director. I'm going to ad-lib a little bit and give you some more pluses and minuses for the flow of the evening's meeting. So we came up with 4 concepts, and that was to purchase a facility and the city run a teen center. And by the way, teen center I'm going to use the word teen center as kids 8 to 16, all inclusive. I think I got the right range in there. So we operated, the city operated. That means it would be a branch of the general fund, a division in the rec department. Option number 1 we looked at. Option number 2 is we purchase a facility and then we partner with Boys and Girls Club. The partner of Boys and Girls Club is probably interchangeable with different groups. I've pinned in Boys and Girls Club because at this time, I would say that that's the most easy body to partner with. They have the most experience. They're known in the community, and they make a good partner. The third thing that we looked at was we construct a new facility. That's what was allocated in the budget, and the city operate that. And then the fourth is we construct a new facility, and for the operations of the teen center, again, we would partner with Boys and Girls Club. So, Victoria, if you flip. Option A, yep, there you go. Option A kind of picks out that number. So the first thing we would do is we'd purchase and we put Faith World in there. Now I think that can also be an interchangeable item. Is there a different facility that can go in that hole? Right now I'm not sure there is. We did look at the daily commercial facility months and months ago. Felt like that building was probably, I jest, okay, that's just 4 times as big and a little bit less money. I think their number was $900, $1 million. But that facility just wasn't going to work. It was too big, too much change. It wouldn't work as a function. We're looking for the 10,000 square foot building, so there's not a whole lot of those in town. The Genesis Center has popped up. I would recommend that this body stay away from that building at this juncture because it is under contract. And so I don't think that that's an alternative for us at this stage. And if something else would pop up in there, that's interchangeable. But right now, what we do know is Faith World. So we threw the numbers in there. Their asking price that the contract was 1.01, just a little over $1 million. I did estimate 200 to 250, and while I respect Commissioner Hurley's views that number's a little fat, I'm sticking by it, so you don't yell at me if you end up buying it and I come back and ask for more money. I think with that facility, probably need to look at some roof issues. We need to look at maybe greening it up, or maybe not, because maybe you keep asphalt there for ball courts. We need to do a little bit of facade change, but not crazy numbers. And we do, so restroom fire is the biggest issue. So I think that is probably a reasonable number, and if it's low, yay. Now, operating costs. Operating costs, we split into two issues, or really three, a staffing level, an operations level, and a membership revenue number. So add together the expenses and then less out the revenue, and then the 22730 is the number that we thought operating costs would be. So I would just like a little reprieve, I'm joking a little bit here, from the last meeting when I recollected that operating costs were 250 and everybody in the room jumped up and said, no, they're not, Minner, you're over budget. It's more like 150. And I made a joke and said, well, I manage a lot of stuff, so I rounded it up. And I didn't round it up 100,000. I rounded it up 30,000. So I remembered pretty closely. But let me quit joking and be more serious. So city staff, and this is Travis's Rama's recommendation. If we have a facility, and I'm gonna change this too as part of our review. Travis recommended that we need 2 full-time supervisors, an admin, and a part-timer. We estimated that those staff and benefits be about 160 grand. We also did operations costs, insurance, water, sewer, electric, paper, pencils, everything is in that number. Thought about 66.5. And we thought, a couple of dollars a head per kid, per year, we might generate $6,000 revenue. That ratio of like 250 or 226 to 6, that's about the recreational return. Okay, so I think we're in the ballpark, at least as far as the room. So those were the big options that we look at. So then where do we get the money? Okay, CDBG 825. We mix that with our money at 1.5. We did a little performer on that, and so we thought about 5 years for a return on that investment. We don't have no partnership with CDBG complications. I'm gonna have to think about what I meant by that and come back. But essentially, that's where we thought we were. Option B was purchase the Faith World again, partner with the Boys and Girls Club, and at the end of the day, where we thought we'd end up was we have CDBG funds, we have Boys and Girls Club funds. Those two numbers together exceed the purchase number, so then you have some money in the bucket left over for the renovation costs. Staffing, we don't have any costs because Boys and Girls Club covers that staff and ops cost. And then the city kind of stands on background. And so this was kind of the trick to this program was, while we can get everything covered, I recommended that, and this was my recommendation at the last meeting, was option B. We still have a liability for that 1.5 million. I think there's a point in time where you'll never have to spend it, but as part of the grant narrative back to CDBG, they're going to hold us on the hook that that money is, that goal, which is that grant's called the Teen Enrichment Center, the Teen Center, that goal is always met. So that probably, my guess would be they would let us slide, and you could safely deallocate that and then go spend it and do other things and accomplish your goals. You can't be surprised later if you have to come back and something happens and we don't have a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. The federal government will hold us accountable for running that center. So then that would be where you're 1.5. Now, I like to save money and I like to build projects. So we've taken a couple of risks. So that was a risk that I would recommend to you. Option number 3, build a facility and operate it at the gym. So in this case, we think we have about a $2.7 million project. 275 a square is what I put in there. Actually, I think that number is probably a little fat, but I still don't think we can get down to Commissioner Roebuck's number at $1.75. I did have a conversation with Mark Starcher as directed, and his number was 2.25. He had some strong recommendations on how you get to that number, and that is to use the construction manager at risk process that allows the contractor to get on board real quick and have the contractor help us through the architectural review RFP process so that contractor and architect can get married real quick. Mr. Modlin. In any case, we had that conversation, and at the end of the day, I threw another $50 on that number to be safe and came up with a 2.75 number. Now, operating costs. One of the things, this is where I shift a little bit on you, and now we get back to the number that we talked about at the last meeting. So I guess I was losing my mind a little bit. But where Travis's thought is if you build a facility at the gym, Travis felt like then you can have less staff. Because if the facility's at the gym, the existing rec staff, because the gym is Recreation HQ, you can use some of those folks to manage Teen Center and do the gym. But if you take that facility and you put it somewhere else, then, and wherever it is, it can be in Pine Street, it could be in Stock Subdivision, it could be Faith World Church. If you're taking that employee and you're making them leave the gym, then they can't do two. So if you put it at the gym, Travis feels like, okay, now I don't need as much staff. So we changed that number to 1 supervisor and 1 part-timer. So we reduced it almost by 2/3. And then look, you just note the same operating cost, the same revenue. And so in this case, what we see with a build a facility and operate is you lose your partnership with Boys and Girls Club, so now you immediately have a capital shortfall of $425,000, and you have that annual operating shortfall of I'm just going to call it 120 that we have to program into the budget every year. So this option C, build a facility and have the city operate it, I would not recommend that to you. The only now having said that, and I don't mean to sidestep or be in the middle or too wishy-washy, at the end of the day, this body is the one that sets the priorities. And if you deem that operating a teen center is worthy of that number, yeah, I'm gonna find you a way to do it. That's my job. But I don't think that that's the consensus of this body, and so I have not recommended that. Option D. Option D was build at the gym, which I think if you're going to build a facility, that's different than buy a facility. So commissioners, don't use my words nicely, not to your advantage. If you build a facility, that becomes different than buy a facility. I think if you build a facility, you want to do it on city-owned property where it's close to city resources, and the gym does give that best option. So I'm going to advise you that if you build, yeah, you should put it at the gym because it's city property, it's ready to go, and it already serves a major portion of kids in the community from Carver Heights Middle. Okay, it's not Faith World Center, where it's equidistant to everybody. So people on the south side, Stock, Leesburg Elementary, Oak Park have to come up, or people even on Pine Street area or East Leesburg still have to come all the way over. The advantage is it's ours, it's by the gym. We already have a boatload of people who use the gym, and it's fundable. So if you build, I think the gym is your best site. So option D is, okay, let's build, let's take out our operating costs, and then go with how does that scenario look? So you look at a 3-way partnership to build, you need about $2.7 million, $850 from the grant, 500 from Boys and Girls, and then 1.5 from our operating funds, and then we roll over operating costs. And then at the end of the day, this city's on the hook, and that to get to 2.75 for about 1.425. So now we're looking at about a 5% contingency or 75,000 bucks. I put that option together and I recommended it for you this evening. And I think it's based on a lot of compromise. Financially, it still made sense for the city because that is how we planned it. I think the commission moving forward, as I said to you the other night, I think that $1.5 million allocation got in the budget for a lot of different reasons. But it is there. But like I said, the budget's not a Bible. But after going and hearing the conversation at the meeting on the 13th, was it the 13th? I believe it was. I think government, local government, we need to blend and modify and find the middle ground. So I came back, I modified my recommendation, and I opted for option D. Now, having said that, I do think Commissioner Peterson this evening has already said it's highly controversial and maybe we need to reallocate. Commissioner Christian said that, not to a strong degree, but I think the thing, if I was going to advise and add on to my recommendation for the commission tonight, is I really think you need to solve this puzzle tonight. I recommended that to you last week. You all didn't listen to me on that one either. I appreciate when you don't listen. It doesn't happen often. And I'm not always right, obviously. But I do think that this meeting, whether you buy Faith World, or whether you buy another facility, or whether you build a facility, or whether you reallocate and do a survey, I think we need to answer this evening. So I will tell you, I'll stand by my recommendation, which is option D. But I'll also say if you veer away from option D, I would recommend that you go to, unfortunately, I think the middle ground compromise, which is not great, which is to deallocate the money and do the study and revisit this in the future. So those are, I don't want to be on the fence, but that's where I would head based on all the input, based on where we did this and the recommendation tonight. I feel very confident that if you do option D, we can accomplish that and reasonably stay in budget parameters, right? You guys like that answer from me. But if you don't do option D, for consensus and keeping the community moving forward, I think then you probably need to consider a deallocation.
Thank you. Just a few questions came up during your four options there. If you're involving the Boys and Girls Club, are we definitely going to get the right age group for the teen center?
I'm going to answer that question, and then I'm also add something that I think I was remiss in talking about. I think the Boys and Girls Club has probably taken too much of a beating from our body a little bit. And maybe that's for good and bad reason. But in the time that we've talked about this, I have spent a good bit of time now with Gary Kane and Mac Reed and the guys there in Orlando. I feel extremely confident that if Leesburg supports the Boys and Girls Club, the Boys and Girls Club will do a great job. And what we went down, Travis, and just for the record, Travis, Rima, Marcus Nyblack, and I went down to go look at that facility. I'm gonna tell you, it was awesome. And it works, and they have community buy-in.
What are the ages?
The ages are that 8 to 18.
Okay.
They blend them all together. Commissioner Christian, you had that picture. I've got some pictures on my phone. But they blend them together in these open facilities and different. And by the way, that's kind of why the Faith World option worked too, because the Faith World building had the ability to handle small kids there and big kids here. And so and that's their concept. You come in a big open room where you see the whole building. and they got it blocked off. They use block wall construction so it doesn't get beat up. They have open bathrooms. They have pool tables here. They have separate rooms for tutoring and education. They had one really cool music room, which you can do karaoke and that stuff in, which I would never go into. Well, at least anybody's in the building.
We wouldn't want you in there.
But I mean, what that field trip did, what that site visit did, was it really gave a good impression of Boys and Girls Club. We saw their ops centers. I feel extremely confident that if we turn the keys over to Boys and Girls Club and we turn around and we support them, Gary Kane is going to make that work.
Okay,
There's more to that. That was your question, but what I was remiss in asking is, and this is why I'm concerned about the purchase of the Faith World Church, because if we end up purchasing a facility, I don't know if we get community buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get community buy-in, I think Boys and Girls Club will be hesitant to partner with us. And then if we lose that partnership, then you're back at, how are we going to man it? Who's going to man it? And then I think we have trouble getting that working. And that's a big piece of the puzzle in if you don't build new or buy a facility that's not accepted, then our mission will fail, and then the savings that we have, you throw that out the window, because then we have a failed mission.
May I?
Yes, I wanted a full answer for your question.
One of the reasons I asked the question about Boys and Girls Club is because I had had a very sour taste in my mouth over the years about this group. However, if they are making the promise to work with us and to contribute money and put some skin in the game, I'm willing to give them a chance. Main reason, if we staff this from Leesburg, who's going to develop the teen program? Do we have people that are capable of doing something like that, coming up with all the programs? And two, this is not another athletic facility. This is a teen center. So somebody running from the gym over to take care of the teen center, to me, is ludicrous. We either have to have professionals on the staff or the Boys and Girls Club handle it. It's too important for the kids.
I agree. I agree with that synopsis, and I think if it was an in-house city concept, I think between Marcus and Travis, we have the management that where if we don't know the answer, we know how to get to it. So I would feel comfortable in bringing that on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd have to move around the financial blocks, and we have to change priorities. Okay. But if this body wanted to go there, I think between the three of us, myself, Marcus, and Travis, we could get there.
Okay, we're going to open this up. But the commissioners have anything else that you want to say before we open this up?
You've not shared any of your thoughts on it yet. Are you going to keep us in suspense?
Yeah, I am. Commissioner?
I do want to just to clear up a couple things that was said here. When we talk about, we have a program in place right now for our teens until such time as we have a place. Last week we were told that they can only, space limited only allows them to do 35 to 40 kids in the facilities. Is that what we call a good program in place right now?
Where is that?
Commissioner, are you asking how many people do you think we can serve in the KOC building?
I'm just saying that right now that's what they've been serving is 35 to 40.
Oh, at the Boys
and
Girls.
from my understanding, when I was talking to you, you said potentially you thought about the same number in the KOC building.
Where's Travis? Is Travis in here? Travis, what do you think the number is at KOC? At how many up to? They can do more than 40 at that building. My guess is they could probably do 50, 75.
They have 40 because of the staff. You have to have one staff for every 20, and they have two staff.
And
so
how many do they do
the facility can probably get 60 to 80. It's just a staffing issue.
Okay, so how many do they do at Boy Scout Hut?
20.
Okay. So you got growth at KOC.
Yes. My point is we don't have 200 kids there, nor the ability is where I was heading with that. when it comes to room to grow, my concern would be, we discussed this several years ago, even before I was on the commission. I do believe that the pad that's being discussed tonight to put the new teen center is the pad that was originally discussed maybe 10, 15 years ago. It's the vacant piece just to the east of the gymnasium. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Between
yes,
that and the tennis
gym and
courts?
the basketball court.
Or basketball courts?
Mhm.
As far as expansion beyond that, there's no other place to go. The rest of that's all wetland and marsh. We discussed that back years ago.
I know you could probably go a little bit to the south, because when we're talking about the pool site, we looked at putting the pool south of the parking lot. So I think you have a little space down there, not a lot. You had enough to put a pool in. So let's call the pool 7,500 square feet. You know, so you had something like that on the south side of the parking lot. But then if you go south side of the parking lot, you have to come up and push the retention over to the east and north and still be south. So you could conceivably, you can't load it up too much because you still need parking. So you could do pool, you could do building. If you did building on the north, you might still be able to squeeze in a little one on the south.
Okay.
Little one being 2,500, 5,000 square feet. These are knee-jerk reactions.
I was going to chime in on Jay's comment. We were on the Boys and Girls Club board together at the time, and we looked at the site. Boys and Girls Club was going to construct a building, partner with the city, do a land lease, and I think Jay will remember this. One of the reasons that building got off track, these were in good economic times, the economy started to turn, but if you remember, it was $200,000 in fill dirt or site work just to build the site up, and that was why it was, turned down by Boys and Girls Club. So I throw that in the mix, on construction cost.
Yeah, and on that pad, so everybody can hear me, our rough estimate is probably 7,500 square feet that you can get in there easy before you hit the basketball court, and then you can probably get 15, but then the basketball court is gone. And that doesn't count going up, but.
I mean, I've always liked that site. I just wanted to be sure everybody's well aware it's going to be expensive, the site work.
And just for the record, the gym site has always been the #1 site. It's always been a site of choice. Even partnering with the Boys and Girls Club when Beth Works was there, EMS was going to buy the old club and they were going to build a gymnasium. I think Ron Stott was city manager. So this is not something the city hasn't been working, trying to do the best for all of Leesburg and the kids that we serve. But again, I think those of you who haven't, walk the trail, because I'm not just talking about the gym site. If you walk the trail, the city owns acres on the right side, the back of Chester, Summit's wet. We have a lot of homeless population that's in there now that could easily be constructed to give you a walking path from the gym to the baseball field. Remember, we got a multi-million-dollar baseball complex, football complex, which is in walking distance from this facility. So when I say visionary thinking, I'm talking about pushing this envelope all the way down on the road for future commissions and future generations to not just look at where we are now and what's best for now, but what's best 20 years down the road. Can we expand this program? What happens when there's a new trend that city governments are operating, dealing with youth and recreation? Will Leesburg be in a position to expand? So for me, that's kind of where I am, and I kind of get discouraged when we start going down a path and then we abruptly change it. Then we say, okay, let's save a couple of dollars. I'm here most meetings, if not all meetings, except a couple, where we're really building cohesiveness. As the city manager said, he's under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress from all 5 of us on trying to do the right thing. And I often tell him, he'll probably echo, I always say, Al, just do the right thing. Whatever that is, whatever that means, do the right thing. So for me, everybody has a different definition of what the right thing is. So I think Al heard, Mr. Miller heard from the community, heard from the commission. We talked this about 4 hours at the last meeting, trying to get consensus, trying to get somewhere we can all come together. So I think this was Al Miller's compromise. Let the Boys and Girls Club run the facility, build a new facility, because I think the reality is we want something that's going to be earmarked in Leesburg, that we can say this is a Leesburg facility and we built it state of the art. We didn't cut corners because, well, it was for some at-risk kids who may need some help, but we want those kids to really reach their potential. Imagine those kids who look at LeBron James who struggle in life, early in life, and I don't know how many of you work with kids who struggle, but those kids come with an array of problems and issues, and you need the right staff. And so as we talked, and Travis hit it right on the head when he said, how many kids do you service right now? Well, we are telling the Boys and Girls Club, you're telling me you can hold 30 extra kids, 20 or 30 extra kids, but you can't get them because of staffing. So now we're saying to the Boys and Girls Club, we're going to force you in a building almost 3 times that size when you're telling me right now the issue is not the kids, because the kids are in our city. The issue is I don't have the staffing. So any business model will tell you before you grow to the next business building, you got to establish yourself here, build your brand before you move to the next level. So we're telling this organization, partner with us, but we're going to force you to do something that none of us in business would do, is move to a bigger facility without having the capital, without having the staffing levels, without having the programs that we say our city needs. We've heard people talk last meeting about a needs assessment. Well, they're in the building right now, and in 2 years from now to finish, we can do a needs assessment, we can get a parent advisory board, we can get a teen advisory board, and do it like it should be done, is working together harmoniously. When they open that facility, we have a cohesiveness of our entire city, and not the people who won't use it. I'm not talking about people who are not going to use this facility, or your kids won't use it. Some of you won't let your kids go to a Boys and Girls Club. So, we're hearing these comments, but will you let your kids go and deal with kids so we can have more diversity in our city? I hear a lot of people talking, but I wonder, because I was at a Carbon Middle School game, I was at Leesburg High School game, I didn't see a lot of leaders there. So I question, when we're making these decisions, let's talk to people who do this on a daily basis. Not who's going to benefit, not who's going to do anything, and it's not our job. It's not our job to facilitate any transaction with anybody. Our job is to do what's best for Leesburg. So my thing is, if it takes us 2 years to build this facility, we got the Boys and Girls Club already operate in a building the city owns, and we allow them to use it. They're already working with our kids. We have the Willis Camp. And let me tell you something, because we talk about location. 2 years ago, I was talking to the Fruitland Park principal, because as I said, this ain't new to me. So as I was talking to the Fruitland Park principal, she says the Saturn 1 bus, Saturn 2 bus are the kids that are the most difficult at my school. I got an after-school program in my school. Guess what? They're on the bus going home. They're not in the after-school program getting the extra help that they need, because poor parents, they say, get on the bus and go home. I'm not coming to the school to pick you up. So until we get parental involvement, this program still won't work. Until we reach the kids that really need it, it still won't work. So that involves all of us here tonight working together, moving past our political differences, our racial differences, our neighborhood differences, and let's do what's best for our kids. So if it's 2 years working on a new facility, if it's scrapping it, putting it on hold to come back and do it the right way, let's do what's best for our kids.
Well, let's keep saying let's do what's best for the kids. But also remember, and I do know that you've been working on this a long time, Commissioner Christian, and I give you credit for that. But I don't like it when you use words like we're trying to force somebody. Don't forget, Boys and Girls Club showed up to Faith World and inspected that building way before you ever showed up over there, or before anybody on this commission even knew about it. Boys and Girls Club was excited. They brought off all their board members from Orlando and Lake County. Well, not all. That's a big word. The majority of their board members. They also brought their building consultants who do that. They thought it was perfect. Their words were, this is move-in ready. That's what they said. When you talk about community, I always get a little bit confused. You keep saying things like, let's don't make this about racial divides. I don't know who's making it racial divides. You keep bringing it up every time you speak. I'm not really sure. I've been here 7 years. I've never seen the NAACP show up for one thing that we have. But the president came last week and they filled the room and they sent out letters and emails saying, please come and stand against this. I certainly didn't ask them to do that. The CDCs came out, one of them, which you're the president of. They all showed up. Everybody had the same thread. I didn't ask anybody to do that. We were talking about the community. I've been talking about the kids for this. You keep implying that you, on two sides. You keep trying to make it sound like this is something new for the rest of the commission. It took me 7 years to get this building done. Please don't forget, I campaigned on this building. You're sitting in a building that I fought for and fought hard for to try to get the commission on. It took me 7 years. So yeah, tonight I think you'll probably be right if you want to paint the picture that in 2 years we can be in this new state-of-the-art building. If we stamp it tonight and we approve it tonight and everybody in this building agrees tonight and you turn it to a contractor tomorrow, we probably could be in it in 2 years. But we know this is the city of Leesburg and we know it's government, and that won't happen. We won't get anything accomplished tonight as far as location, building, how much money, because that's just how it works. I got 7 years on that and you've got 15 years experience in it, so I think we know what we're talking about. I appreciate your passion for the kids. I remember when we had big fights going on down at Leesburg High School, when Channel 9 showed up, Daily Commercial showed up, Lake Sentinel showed up. Man, we flooded that dining hall. We had hundreds of people in there. We were going to do all kinds of things. Let these kids know we're not going to tolerate that, and we're going to be here for them, make them feel safe, and we're going to help them out, and we're going to... 3 weeks later, nobody. We came, we filled the building, we made our speeches, and done it. I don't have a problem with community buy-in. When I say community, I talk about all 26,000 people. You keep splitting it and it's confusing me, and that's why I'm asking you the question. When you say community buy-in, what constitutes community buy-in? Is it community buy-in from the Carver Heights neighborhood, or are you talking about community buy-in for the 26,000 in the city as a whole? That's what I'm talking about. What's best for everybody as a whole? I do think we ought to I have no problems with new buildings. I have no problems with old buildings. I have a problem when we need a building if we don't act on it. I don't have a problem with doing surveys. I don't have a problem with putting out, what do we call those things where we're going to have them, I'm sorry? No, we just talked about it. Needs assessment. Don't have a problem with needs assessment. But I will say this, on my last deal. I've been through the Boys and Girls Club gambit. I started working with the Boys and Girls Club back in my law enforcement days. I served on there just so kids would know that cops like them and that they could come to them and it was a safe place. I continued on as when I became a professional, I became a board member way before I ever got involved in politics. I was going down and playing basketball with little kids and having fun and going to their houses and putting bicycles together. I've been doing that for 20 years. Kids ain't something new for me. This teen center, yes, I didn't start talking about teen center until I got on the commission. But this is not new. I watched the Boys and Girls Club. We had a program in place with serving a maximum capacity of 200 whatever kids it was. They do have a program. I too, not just one or two, but I too have been in contact with the Boys and Girls Club. And yes, you're exactly right. You have to have the staff to be able to do the 20 kids per staff. But if you go hire, nobody goes out and hires 50 employees and says, now y'all all go sit in the corner until we find a building that's big enough to find enough work to put all of you to work. You go out and you build your building. When you get too small, you build a new building. Then you start bringing your staff on. So I don't understand the mentality of, well, let's just stay in a small building, have limited amount of people, and then 2 or 3 years from now, when everything's grand and glorious, we'll start working on hiring people and getting programs. They've already told me, and I'd be happy to have the conversation in public with them again, they can staff it. They can. In the morning, no. But by the time we get down the road, months, yes. So they also know that they're limited on, and I think Mr. Mike serves on the board now, he can still tell you, but I've even had a lot of them tell me, listen, we've lost a lot of our capital funding. One of the reasons we've lost is because we're not serving our kids right now. So we have a lot of people who won't write checks and won't support us like they used to back before we had the Teeter unit because we don't have the facilities and the staff and the kids being served. Get a facility, start serving the kids, we start writing checks. So they do understand that they have to have capital money to work with. They do understand they have to have facilities. So, you know, I'm fine with discussing this, but I want to make sure we're very clear back and forth on what's what. Mayor, thank you.
Anybody else?
My only request would be when we go into public comment, if we could maybe hold all the applause till the very end of everyone, because I don't want to see the sunrise here tomorrow. So that would be nice.
I'll just have a few more comments.
Excuse me.
Just while we're talking about Boys and Girls Club and their model, the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida, their model right now is they try to put all their facilities, I believe all of them either are on school properties or near schools, and that's why I brought up this idea of, maybe 2 locations. So I'm not against the gym site. I guess I am against a 10,000 square foot building. Just seems like it's too much for me, especially next door to a gymnasium that we'd be utilizing. So while we had Boys and Girls Club on the topic of discussion, I'm just going to say it again. I think it would help, win the community's buy-in to talk about a smaller facility at Griffin and a smaller facility, say down on South Street or something like that. Or if we could buy, Faith Rural at a price, satisfactory. But, I just want to add the Boys and Girls Club model would be to get them both, on schools or near schools. So I just throw that out there. And the 10,000 square feet just seems like too much up in one quadrant of town.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, we're going to open this up to public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we don't need a rehash of 2 weeks ago, so we don't need the constant repetition of that. So if you've got something new to discuss, or if you weren't heard the last time, please feel free. We need your name, and we need you at the podium.
My name is Sherry Turner, and taking into consideration everything that was said at the last meeting and the things we've heard today, I would like to say I really agree with Commissioner Peterson and Commissioner Christian. We don't need a divided community, and this should not be a racist issue. This is about our kids that are underprivileged or in need, and those kids come in every race. And you're city commissioners over the city of Leesburg, and that's where I agree with Commissioner Hurley. The city is not one neighborhood, and the underprivileged children in this city are not in just Carver Heights. They stretch all the way back to behind the post office, and I'm sure there's other areas even still. They're going to have to be bused no matter what, according to some of you. So, to me, you have a building that's ready available that Boys and Girls Club support, and it would be ashamed if a community was divided only because of race, because of skin color. It's about our kids. We have kids of every skin color that need us. And to me, that's how our money should be spent. That's where our hearts should be. Not in, we want a grand, majestic building. And I understand. I mean, everybody wants something new and shiny and beautiful. It's not going to stay that way. And we do need room for expansion. And I think there's room for expansion at both locations. I could be wrong about that, but I do believe there is. But my main concern is the kids that we have now. Are we going to wait 2 or 3 years and let these kids perish while it gets argued out, or you have to do surveys?
Could we keep the side talking down, please?
Or you have to build up the land or whatever. I mean, we have something readily available now, and it would cost our city nothing, $0 to purchase and operate. That's a no-brainer to me.
Thank you, Mrs. Turner.
My name is Tony Hardy, and I would just like to add these comments to the discussion.
Could you get closer to the microphone, please? Thank you.
My voice is going. But I would like to add these comments. We're talking about building a facility, housing a facility that will affect our kids, our teens. And you're basically talking about the population from Oak Park, Leesburg High, and Carver. One thing we was talking about was location, but also transportation. And if a facility is at the site where the city gym is, the city bus is run directly to the city gym. And any kid from Oak Park, Carver, or Leesburg High can simply show an ID and get on the city bus and ride to the teen center if it's at the gym. And after their activities, they can get on the city bus, public transportation, and they can go to the west, east, north, or south of Leesburg, back to their community, without having parents or someone having to pick them up. So let's consider the public transportation aspect. The city bus does not run down Main Street. Yes, we say a mile or so from the schools. The kids might be able to walk there, but how are they going to get home? They can catch the city bus from the gym and go to Fulham Park, go to West Leesburg, South Leesburg, North Leesburg. So let's consider that transportation component. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Bedgood, and I've lived in Leesburg all of my life, and I've seen a tremendous amount of changes come and go here. And children, God knows I love all the children. I ran a daycare for years, but that's neither here nor there. These teens, they deserve our concern. And as far as money goes, God help us if we put our dollars above our children. God help us if we put our dollars above our children. But I know for a fact that Boys and Girls Clubs will contribute $500,000 toward the purchase, and Lake County will contribute $800,000 toward the purchase. So therefore, your new building will cost you less than the $3 million that you're anticipating, or $2.5 million. But that will pay, that $1.3 million will pay for the already standing building. The city has, what, 1.2 or 1.5 million that they could do the renovations and fix. Do you know what that building at 2205 looked like 25 years ago, 35 years ago, 40 years ago? I can tell you, I lived here. It was an old grocery store. An old grocery store, remember? An old grocery store. It didn't look fine like it does today. They put a lot of work into that building to make it look the way it does today. The outside of a building doesn't mean anything. It's what you put into the inside and the love and the care that you care about these children. So the 1.2 million that you have left that you didn't have to spend on building a new building, put on the inside of that building and fix it up and make it new and fancy for these kids that they want. Put their fancy equipment in there and their dance machines and their pool tables and all the fine fixtures that they want and they need. Fix it the way they want it. Put your fancy bathrooms in there. Do whatever they want to do inside. If you want to renovate the outside, then do that. You've got that extra money to use it. Do something for these teens, but you can do this now. You don't have to wait 2 years to do it. You can do this now. And not only that, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like you can build on to Faith World. It looks like you can build onto that building. Lots of land there from the looks of it. So consider the price. Can you take care of your children now? Or can you take care of your children 2 years from now and hope to God that none of them are gone? And hope to God that that $1 million or $1.5 million that you were saving or that you wanted to spend on a fine new building didn't cost you your teenage child's life, or my teenage child's life, or my grandchild's life. Help us if our dollar means more to us than our children.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. Henderson, and I'm new to Leesburg. I actually dragged myself in here from being with a chiropractor because I heard what was going on.
Could you get closer to the microphone, please? Thank you.
I actually dragged myself here after being at the chiropractor because I was deeply concerned about what's going on. And this is what I hear. When I came to Leesburg, I want to know what was going on with the young people. And I did a needs assessment. And one of the things that caught my attention was the fact that Carver Heights seemed to be
a major community or major neighborhood of concern. The other thing was that Leesburg seems to have the highest crime rate in the area, in Florida. And then when I looked at the schools are underperforming. And one of the things I was trying to understand was that, where were the children? The folks that are here are not the same folks that I came across when I went into those communities to talk with the people in the communities. The young people in the community that I went in, I don't see them here. I see a panel of people who have money. And it's you that is deciding what's going to happen with these children. But I can say to you, the building is not what makes things work for these children. The building is a legacy. And it seems like you have more folks in Leesburg that are concerned about their legacy. And if you're talking about building buildings, the next issue comes about, how do you house this? Do you have qualified people to work in these buildings? And thus far from what I've seen, I don't see that. When I came to Leesburg, I asked about the boys club. People told me, well, we have a boys club, but it's not doing all that well. When I went to the Leesburg complex, recreational complex, I learned that they're only open like from 8 to 5. And I want to know, well, if you're only open to 8 to 5, when the young people come out of school, where do they go? And then I heard that they're not open on the weekends. Now, because I'm new to Leesburg, please excuse me if I make errors in what I'm saying. But the issue is about, what are you going to do to deal with these young people? The millennial is the fastest growing population. If the schools are failing and there are no jobs in Leesburg, what do you think is going to happen? It doesn't matter what type of buildings you build. Someone mentioned transportation. It is hard for children who are in those communities to get from point A to point B. I'm with a gym right now. I'm serving as a consultant. Primal Health and Fitness, which is 90441. It's a boxing gym. And one of the things that I say is that if you're doing something for these young people, just don't let it be about sports. They need much more than that. You need to stimulate their minds. It needs to be cognitive. It needs to be behavioral enrichment. It's not just about playing ping pong or shooting, pool. When I talk to the parents in the communities, one of the things they say to me is that these children lack values. So if they lack values, what are you going to do if you build a gym? If there's no one there with the qualifications to teach these young people the pro-social skills that they need. In New York, I attend a lot of these forums, and I looked at a lot of panelists, and they all have great ideas. But when it comes down to it, nothing is put into place that will benefit the young people. And yes, the people have to get involved. Yes, you parents, you have to be more proactive in raising your children. The churches, you have to be more proactive in teaching these young people
wrapping
these
it up,
values.
sir. Please start wrapping it up, sir. Thank you.
If you're looking to effectuate change in Leesburg, it's going to be a collaborated approach. Yes, it's going to be with the people on the panel, but it's going to be with the people in the audience. But you have to be realistic about what the goals are when it comes to dealing with these young people and fix these schools.
Thank you, sir. You want to say something? No, I'm watching the time. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, commissioners, and everyone in their respective places. My name is Nia Hagebrook. I'm a 13-year-old eighth grader presently attends Carver Middle School. So right away, now knowing the school I attend, many should understand why I jumped at the opportunity to address you all this evening. On behalf of the teens at Carver and surrounding communities, I ask you to build a new teen center. In this situation, placement is everything. A new teen center will enhance an already thriving gymnasium, which has elevated many local athletes to college and beyond. Just imagine the addition that could provide tutoring, mentoring, and directing teens of all races and backgrounds. A place where teens could seek counseling, a place where parents will be afforded a peace of mind that can assure safety, and a place where a teen could just simply be a teen. Sure, you may ask, why do I care? You're an 8th grader, and the convenience of having a teen center will be an afterthought to me in a couple of months. But this need goes beyond me. Now is not the time to be selfish, for the future of our youth is at stake here. With your help, you will not only help me, but numerous generations of teens to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vincent Felton, and I hear a lot of passion in this room. And the last 2 weeks ago, this meeting filled the city council, or the city commission. 2 weeks later, the passion has grown where you needed a bigger boat. Well, this is the issue. Everyone is concerned about what's going to happen to our children in 2 years or 2 months. And in our community, not to split it up, but in our community, we worry about our kids in the next 2 hours, and the next day, or every time they walk outside the door. Now, maybe a lot of people in this room may or may not have that kind of concern, but in our community, we do. So there is a sense of urgency. Now, I heard about forward thinking. Forward thinking is important because a new building 20 years from now will be 20 years old. A 60-year-old building 20 years from now will be 80 years old. The other point that I would like to make is this. It seems to be this project has been on the table for a very long time. And yes, I'm from a big city. The mayor started a hole the first year of his office. He filled the hole 8 years later when he left office. So I understand some things about government and how government money works. But no one was concerned about how long it was going to take to spend this $1.2 million or so far, or ever, for the last 5 or 6 years until the Faith Center came into the picture. Now there's a sense of urgency to spend the money. But no one was really concerned year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of that time, no one was really concerned about the kids in the neighborhood that we are concerned about. But now everyone's saying, we're going to help the kids right now because the Faith Center is in the picture. Our kids, yes, we're concerned about them 2 hours from now, tomorrow. We want to know where they are right now. But if you're going to build this new building and do something for this community, well, by God, do it. Stop fooling around with it and talking about it. You've been doing it long enough. And if the Faith Center didn't come into the picture, you may have started to build this building by now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I don't do much of this, but I want to do this. We're talking about investing in our children. Now, we can engage in retrofitting a building that is already in need, that does not have the technology accommodations to do what needs to be done for the 21st century students. Or we can take our time and create what needs to be done in regards of evaluation and looking at where things will be best based on what the city manager has given us, and build something that will accommodate our children, not just in the arena of sports, but to help them academically as well. And if you're going to help a child in the 21st century academically, you have to have the accommodations to do it. I think I'm the only one in here who's been engaged with children for the last 22 years. That began in the parking lot of First Baptist Church, then moved to work in the schools. And then we eventually moved into the Genesis Center. That became the model for the governors, for 3 governors, and a model for the nation. And in that, we were always engaged in retrofitting because the age of the building. So if we're going to do this, do what is right. Take your time and build that, just like the gentleman said earlier. You build something that 20 years from today it's going to be 20 years old, versus going in a building that's 40 or 50 years old and it's going to be near 100. You're going to be engaged in retrofit continuously. Let me tell you, we're at the Genesis Center, and the Genesis Center served its purpose, but it was tough. It was tough because we could not get the kind of accommodation with the technology. Our children use iPads. Okay, our children are in need of, look, holistically, we need to meet them where they are and provide for them a program to call them up higher. We talk about, will we get the people required to do it? There are people here that will do it if we do it right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so
Thank you.
can I
Time
have
is
one
up.
last comment?
Okay.
If we're going to do it, the children deserve the best that we can give to them.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Miller. I'd just like to say a few things. First off, everyone, I hear a lot of people talking about the age of the building. Does anybody know how old the White House is? It's 228 years old. And I don't hear anybody complaining about living there, just saying. So, okay. I just wanted to throw that little fact out there. We talk about after-school programs, and statistically, if you look it up, it's so beneficial for the young kids. It helps them so much. The percentage of the kids that it helps them in their career, it helps them stay away from the crime, from the drugs. It helps them, they don't have to go home to, they can stay away from the house from the parent who beats them. You know, you can look at the studies that have been done, that after-school programs, how much it really helps the kids. And I've heard talk tonight about having 2 buildings being built. Well, I was talking to another friend of mine about, no one has talked about buying Faith World now. Faith World is a building, it is a ground, and it grows in cash value like any other house you buy. It's going to grow in value. So you buy it now, the kids have something now instead of 2 years, 3, 4, however long the new building takes. We all know it's not going to be 2 years on the dot that's going to be done. That's just logically we know that. So my suggestion is, why not at least look into if financially it would work to buy Faith World, have something right now for the kids, because the number of kids that are going to miss out. Let's just say it's a 2-year gap that the building is being built. All those kids in that 2-year span, that's going to affect not just their life, but it's going to affect the Leesburg economy. If you look at it, it says how an after-school program and the invested amount is crazy. You invest $3 into the I'm sorry. You invest the $3. I got a screenshot somewhere of it. Sorry, guys. So it says after-school programs are cost-effective, saving at least $3 for every $1 invested by increasing children's future earning potential, improving their performance at school, and reducing crime and welfare costs. So, I mean, logically, if you think about it, we buy Faith Roll now. The kids have somewhere to go. You're helping the kids. You're helping them. First off, you're helping the Leesburg economic system. You're helping the financial system. You're helping the kids have a better foundational of learning, a better area to go, a safer area to go that has it now. And at the same time, the building that you bought is increasing in value. So the way I look at it is it's a win-win for both sides of the spectrum for all of us here. You have a building, the kids have it now. I have 2 young kids. If they say, hey, Dad, I want to go play, and I'm going to say, okay, wait 2 years, then we're going to go play. Or they don't want to hear that. Or I'll say, 15 minutes, we're going to leave. Anyone who has kids, what happens? Dad, is it time? Dad, are you ready? I don't want my kids, I don't want any other kids to wait. If we can do something to better the kids now, I think it would be fantastic. So, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Randy Hepburn. I'm born and raised in Leesburg, and we're talking about staffing the facility and on. Do we have any volunteers back there will come to the city and help volunteer? Do we have any volunteers in here when we get this new teen center? Stand up if you'll be a volunteer. All you gotta do is go down to the rec department and sign up, and you can volunteer anytime you want to. So we ain't gonna come with this staffing. We have people that will volunteer. Come in and help the city do whatever they need to do. Plenty educators, principals, ex-principals, we got them right here. So therefore, we need the best that we can give our kids, the very best. Ms. Coney will be glad to come down and help kids. Dr. Smalley, I see him all throughout this building here. Me, myself, and I will be glad to come down and volunteer. So we're not going to be short of staff. Ma'am? I coached football in Leesburg for 40 years. Youth sport for 40 years. 40 years in this town right here. That's right. And
Sir, please keep your comments to the commission.
Oh, she asked me a question.
I know, but please, no.
Yeah, she asked me a question, so I was addressing it.
Watch it, Miss Turner.
For 40 years, I've been out here with this kid, and I'm going to do it until God calls me. Commissioner Hurley, I heard you say something, and you said, and I'm not always picking on you, I just remember what you say. I heard you say that Faith World will be all right anyway. I know it'll be all right if you serve the same God that I do.
Thank you.
So, my name is Trenton Thomas. I'm a student at Carver Middle School.
Excuse me, please talk closer to the microphone, okay?
Okay. My name is Trenton Thomas. I'm a student at Carver Middle School. I'm a straight A student, and I'm involved in all the advanced classes. I'm coming to you tonight to talk to you about the Teen Center. I think it's important to have a Teen Center built by Carver Middle School because I attend school there, and it will be a place for kids to go like a safe haven while their parent, guardian are at work in the morning and evening time. As you may be aware, a lot of kids are at risk in the morning time and evening due to certain people in the community that can influence them in a negative way. I also believe that the influence can cause other problems such as teen pregnancy and stealing. So I think a teen center would be very good for the kids to have on the neighborhood to prepare us socially and professionally as we move forward into the future. We can have programs such as computer graphics, programs that come to social media, how to start a business. We could also have programs like a lot of stuff kids are interested in, like cosmetology, carpentry work, home economics, stuff like that. I think it would be a good idea to have a teen center from what you heard.
Could you take a breath and just slow down a little bit?
Thank you.
Thank you. You want him to fall down.
Good evening. My name is James Chen. I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak tonight. I was born in Leesburg, raised in Black Bottom. I moved to Miami. Now I'm back in Leesburg. And having the experience, I used to work, I was a community organizer, and I had a youth center. In fact, I was the youth coordinator for whole Dade County. I had a $15 million budget, 365 employees under my direct supervision. So I know something about youth centers, and that's what we had. And one of the things that we did with our youth center was that we stocked it really well with all the latest technology that was there. And I just want to say one thing that nobody mentioned yet. We're talking about trying to get our community to get together and make it better. So like when we got a weak community, the whole community is bad. So what we did, we stocked it. Like I said, people broke in and stole our equipment. But you know what? The youth of that community got together and they made them bring it back. So now you're talking about getting a bond together, getting people to do what's right. So this is one thing that we can do for this center. This center can make this community become more cohesive. This center can bring about a certain unity. We're talking about forward looking. You know, you can't be a backwards looking person trying to look forward because you're always looking over your shoulder. You need to get that vision, you need to move ahead. And we always talking about right now, I heard all this about immediacy. You see, that's another thing that's wrong here. Everybody want to be microwave. They want to do everything. But if you're going to do that, do it in the right manner. Do it the right way. Nobody talk about this building being built, what kind of construction, what kind of employment this is going to bring to the people in the community, how it's going to be affected economically. That's going to let the children see that's something that can be built, okay? Retrofitting, hey, just like everybody say, I'm up that same thing. You know, a 60-year-old building or a 25-year-old building. 25 years from now, I'm going to be 45. I'm 72. I know what it means. I know that wear and tear, all that maintenance that's going to be going on with that building. You know, everything, all that upkeep. You know, you got a new building, you can build that right now. And I just want to say one thing about the community. We all belong to Leesburg. That's what we need to look at. All our kids. I don't have any kids. Well, I have kids now, but when I say I don't have no kids, I'm like, I got a great grandbaby. That's what I'm looking at. That's my legacy. That's my inheritance. That's what I want to leave for her. So when she comes up here and visit me, she can go to a good facility. And I just want to say one thing. I just want y'all to think about this real hard. Think about it real hard. You know, everybody got their own agendas and everybody got their own progress that they want to make. Make that progress. I didn't really want to come up here and speak, but you know the Lord put it on my heart for me to come up here and say this. So I just want to let you know that let's do something for our kids. Let's do something the right way. Let's don't keep giving them hand-me-downs. You know, when you was a child, you didn't want what your brother had. You wanted your own.
Thank
Ain't
you,
nothing
sir.
wrong with having your own. So let them have their own building, brand new building.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Belita Bloomer. I live in Leesburg for 40 years. I have $2 million. I can go and buy myself a house, but somebody comes, why don't you take this old 60-year-old building and save you some money? My grandkids, they're 15, 16, 17 years old, and they can't wait for the building to get done. They don't want to have a church. They want to have their own building. I'm 72, and I'm waiting for my grandkids to go in there and play. Build it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ruby Mitchell. I am not an NAACP member. I'm not a commissioner, a county commissioner, nor am I with the CDC. However, I am a voter and a property owner here in Lake County in Leesburg. I would like to say that my husband and I worked with the Boys and Girls Club, so I'm going to lay a little foundation and move on. I enjoy the Boys and Girls Club. My children attended the Boys and Girls Club. I have some concerns with us saying that we want to build a new building and then we want to let the Boys and Girls Club run it. One of those concerns is who's going to determine, if we have the Boys and Girls Club do it, who's going to determine who's going to use the building, when it's going to be used? Is the Boys and Girls Club open on Saturdays? Do we have to sign in with the Boys and Girls Club? Who's the liability going to fall with? Who's going to own the equipment? If we let the Boys and Girls Club have this building, what's going to happen to the Knights of Columbus building? Are they going to own that one also? Do they still get to keep those? I am in favor of building the new rec center in the Carver Heights area. Yes, I am. But I'm also in favor of having the city of Leesburg run that rec center. Now, I know that's not popular with the commissioners, and I know what they say would be the most cost-effective. We have qualified people in our community that could help run that club, as you saw with the volunteers. Funny thing about volunteers, though, when you need them, they're not around. But you have people in our community like Pastor Ken, like the gentleman who just sat down, other people who can come in and be an asset. Pastor Ken has a wealth of knowledge with running programs. He ran the Genesis Center. So he has a wealth of knowledge of running programs such as this, and he could go ahead and he's very knowledgeable, he and his wife, about getting grants. My only concern, I am so glad that the most cost-effective is for us to get a new building in Carver Heights. But I'm very concerned about the Boys and Girls Club. Like I said, my husband served on the board of the Boys and Girls Club. I did Girl Scouts there. I did traffic school there. I've done all type of safety classes for the Boys and Girls Club. I am a proponent of the Boys and Girls Club. I'm not a proponent of mixing high schoolers with elementary. And I'm not a proponent of just turning over a $300 million building that maybe the taxpayers will not get the full benefit of. That's the question that I have. Who's going to say when we can use the club, when it's club and when it's community? Who will the equipment belong to in there? Things of those things I don't think have been thought out. The history of the Boys and Girls Club in our community since I have been here started out very strong. And somewhere down the line, our parents and our students have not chosen to go with the Boys and Girls Club. So it needs assessment, community involvement, getting buy-in from our community. Those are the things that I'm seeing from this decision of what is best. Let's build our club, but let's let the city own it. I've done my research, and most of the teen centers that are owned in city limits are owned by the city. And if we can find the money, let's think about this. If we save the money, where's the saved money going to go to? Are we going to build more onto Ski Beach and onto this property? Maybe the women's club, the old Girl Scout, all the improvements over on this side of the community? We're not asking for anything. We just want improvements on our side of the community, and we want them done right, and we want to own it. We want the city of Leesburg to own it so that we can have a fair shot at using it. We don't want somebody to come in and tell us, well, it's the Boys and Girls Club, and we can't use it for what we need to use it for.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Porter Connolly, and I am currently a staff member at the Boys and Girls Club. And what I will say is I'm very proud to be a part of that organization. And the reason why I'm proud to be a part of that organization is because the work that I do makes a difference. The work that you do should make a difference. As a community, I say Leesburg, it's time out for us thinking about us. We need to think about our children. We say they're the future, we're there right now. We have children who have emotional problems. We have children who need to have that safe place to go. Forget all the politics, but we need to do what's best for our children. And if we say that we are believers, and a lot of us in here say that we are believers, well, we need you all at the Boys and Girls Club. We can't do it alone. We have every ethnicity represented in the Boys and Girls Club. I've been with the Boys and Girls Club for over 12 years, and I'm telling you, I've seen some good, and I've seen some not so good. But I want to let you know that it was not the staff's problem. It happened above our head. And you know that if you're not a supervisor, you're not the one that's making the decisions, you just have to do what you have to do. And that's what we did. I will say that it just tears my heart up to know that our community is so torn apart about something that it should not be torn apart about. And so what I would suggest to all of us is that when we leave here tonight, that whomever we say that we serve, we truly need to go back and make sure that we're serving the one who says one God. We represent one God. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we really mean what we're saying. I have a daughter that came up under Pastor Ken when he was in the parking lot recruiting kids to do certain things. My daughter's 31 years old. She hasn't been to jail. She hasn't done all kinds of crazy things. And guess what? It's because somebody in the community cared enough about her. She had 2 parents at home. Sometimes I was a single parent. It took my church family to help me, to help raise my 3 sons, who all graduated from Leesburg High School. My daughter graduated from Leesburg High School. They're in their own businesses. They're doing the things that they wanted to do. And yes, they stopped by the Boys and Girls Club. It might not have been perfect, but that's all they had. I couldn't be there 24/7, but it took people in the community that thought about my children to make sure that my boys had belts. They were respectful. They had somewhere to go. It wasn't just for sports, but it was where they could talk to somebody. When my son's father passed away, he had someone to talk to. Mr. Quentin in the back, and other people at the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm going to say the Boys and Girls is not perfect. None of us are. But we really do need to search our hearts as to why we're taking the stand that we're taking. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carol Smith. I live in Legacy of Leesburg, and lived in Florida since 1990, and 7 years in Leesburg. My husband and I have never had any children. We've not been lucky enough, but have always been a huge supporter of helping the youth in any community that we lived in. It's the only way that a community, country, or world can live. What we need to think about is not just what's here in front of us today, but the future of this community and all the children that go to school. How can we help them? Yes, we can certainly go ahead and purchase this church, renovate it. It is an older facility. It will cost more money down the line to continually maintain that facility. You not only have to bring it up to code currently. Yes, it would be wonderful if we could just go in there right now, have our children have a facility that they can go to right now. Well, you can't. You have to be realistic. You have to bring it up to code. You have to find out what kind of programs you're going to put in there. How are you going to do it? And it's not going to happen overnight in any case. So why not think about the future of everybody, not just the people that live around Griffin Avenue or Carver schools or whatever. Leesburg is growing hugely. Just down 27 from Leesburg, There's a brand new community. It's not a senior-only community. It's the family community that's being built now. Now, there's going to be children there. They're not going to be black children. They're not going to be white children. It could be anybody. But you have to think about all of the children that are going to be coming and growing in this community. Do we want to put these children in a small building or any size building that they cannot grow in? They need to have what's new, what is innovative in the way of programs that are offered, what individual things that we can assist the children at risk. Things that need to happen take a little bit of time. 2 years for that is not a big deal. If it's something that they can grow into and make a difference.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mayor Dennison, Commissioners, I'm David Jones, and I'm one of those single parents that the lady just spoke about. 5 years ago, my wife decided I don't want to be a mother anymore. I don't want to be a wife anymore. Handed me my 3 kids and walked right out the door, never looked back. I have a teenager that goes to Oak Park Middle School. We don't live in Carver Heights. Next year, he'll be in high school. He's too shy to get up and speak tonight. If you don't believe me, just ask his science teacher. But you wouldn't believe the stories that he comes home and tells me every day about the fights that take place in his school, about the police coming in and arresting this one or that one because of some kind of activity. So I'm sorry, but none of you can stand here and tell me that Carver Heights is the only community in this city with a problem. Just after the last city commission meeting, there were 2 teenagers that were involved in an incident, and it made the news. Those students attended Oak Park Middle School. They didn't attend Carver Middle School. I also run a classroom in one of our schools that houses 30 computers. They house the oldest computers on my campus. I'm also the technology contact at my school. And I promise you, I service more brand new computers than I do any of the 30 that sit in my classroom that are 10 years old. So just because it's brand new doesn't mean that it's not going to need maintenance. The comment was made tonight that the citizens who live on Vine Street and in the neighboring communities behind Faith World don't want children walking through their streets and walking through their yards. Well, I challenge any of you tonight to drive down Lone Oak Avenue on any afternoon about 3 or 4 o'clock, and I promise you, you're already going to see them walking through their driveways and through their yards. Thank you.
I'd like to say good evening. My name is Joe Steedley, and I'm from Legacy. I enjoyed the prayer that was prayed, and it's in the multitude of counsel there is wisdom. And Micah 6 and 8 say, what does the Lord require of you and me? To do justice, to love mercy, and walk humbly before thy God. So what I'm saying, I hear a lot of stuff tonight, and I don't hear what is the main picture of this meeting. We come here to discuss something that's really important. And the lady said something about believers. I go further than believers. I say born again believer, because the devil believes and tremble. So just because you say you're a believer, that don't mean that you're a child of the King. So you got to be born again. So if we in here tonight are born again, then we should love one another. There shouldn't be no difference in discussion. I heard one of the ministers say, we are divided. Why are you divided? You're divided because sin is in your heart. And even the church that we're talking about tonight, if they love like Jesus Christ said love, then they wouldn't worry about no building. They'll worry about doing what's right. I'm 82 years old. I don't have no children down here. But I'm a mentor, if I'm saying the word right. We go to Leesburg, Carver Heights, Wildwood, Beverly Shore. We teach children. They take them out during the week, you know, and love them. Maybe take them to the movie. I'm a member of the Afro-American Gents Club from the village. We raise money for teenagers, Wildwood, Leesburg, Somerville, all around in the neighborhood. Last year, we gave $36,000 to teenagers. That's our money. We had golf tournaments. We are doing something to help people, children in the neighborhood. We have Spanish, black, white, all colors, and they qualify. They have to do an essay every year, and we have people to check these things out.
Sir, please start wrapping it up. Your time is up.
And these kids are very smart. And what I want to finish saying that, yes, we need a new facilities. The way they're building cars with no steering wheel, everything is getting more excited to children and everything else because you just can't build on old stuff. Put new wine is in an old bag.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I built enough old houses.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Mitchell. I was born and raised here in Leesburg, Florida. I'm not as old as some of you. I'm yet only 25 years old. But I grew up going to the Boys and Girls Club. I grew up going to after-school programs at Beverly Shores. I attended and worked at the Venetian Center with Pastor Ken. I attended sports programs with Mr. Marcus and things like that. What I want to say tonight is I don't care what you believe in, as long as you believe in the children of Leesburg, all of them, black, white, yellow, brown. My father, many of you know him, Pernell Mitchell, was the DARE officer. When we were growing up, we went to many other programs that he and many other community leaders, black, white, put together, Mexican, I don't care. But it was with new and innovative ways. They introduced kids to different ways of life. They did programs to take them to Orlando Magic games. Pastor Ken, when I was working with him, he had a great program, but like he said, he had an older building. He had wood shop out there. He had electrical work out there. They were learning gardening. So there's plenty of people in the community. Dr. Smalley had a charter school, and like you said, you need buy-in from the community, but you get buy-in from the community by engaging the children, engaging their parents, engaging their teachers in their schools. There's a lot of willing participants out here if you do the necessary research and the work to pull people in. Now, buying an old church, I'm not in agreement with, only because nothing here. You said yourself, Mr. Hurley, it took you 7 years to get this new building. It seems that Leesburg and Lake County can come up with and find the money for brand new stuff whenever they want it, whether it be this building, whether it be to renovate Ski Beach, to expand down 27 for communities. Well, Carver Heights wants their community expanded as well. And I'm just saying from a black young man, from his standpoint, that we would like something to call our own, not just for us. When I went to these programs, I had black friends, I had white friends, I had Mexican friends, but the difference was the parents in the community and the leaders in the community took the time to come out and be. I saw so many police officers and bankers and pastors. I went to Faith World for a short time with my parents. You all have a great facility, but it's older. We need something new. If the rest of the community can get new and it be expedited, and they take the time to find out what the community around here would like and would want, and then you move forward with it, why can't we take 2 years to find out what the children need? What the children needs are at Beverly Shores, at Triangle, at Carver Middle School, Oak Park Middle School, and then work together, whether it be I like academic.
Please start wrapping it up. Your time is up.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
We have a lot of sports programs. Well, we need more academic programs, so find a way to work together. You all are very scholarly, you're very business-minded, so I don't see why you can't come together to find a solution that will benefit the children. But we do need something new to compete with the rest of the world, not just Leesburg, not just Lake County, not just Florida. We have to be in the 21st century. These kids need something new. You wouldn't want anything old for yourself. Don't give the children leftovers and hand-me-downs.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Martha Taylor, and I guess I represent the elephant that's in the room, the NAACP. I've been the president for only 1 year, and I heard someone say that the city's been going and you've been having meetings and the NAACP was never in the room. The NAACP is always in the room. Do not assume that everyone in the NAACP looks like me. The NAACP was started by not black people. It was started by a group of white people. There were only a few blacks that created this organization. The NAACP is about the civil rights of everyone, not just African Americans, not just Hispanics, everyone. And that's what we represent. That's what I intend to keep representing here in Lake County. In fact, we're having a meeting tomorrow night. I would ask anyone who's interested in the civil rights, who's interested in youth. We have youth councils, high school councils, college councils. We believe in the youth. Education is our #1 game changer all across this country. I ask you, if you're interested, you want to see what we do, you want to get involved, you don't want to get involved, you're not sure what we do, who we are, come to our meeting tomorrow night, 6 p.m., Spark Level Church, over in what I knew as Cherry Lake is now called the Villages. But you're invited to come. Membership is still only $30 a year to get involved and take care of the issues of the community. And we, as community, decide what the issues are. When I spoke 2 weeks ago, I asked the question, what is the primary goal? Is it to give the teens a center that they can use, something that we'll be proud of, something that will work, or is it to purchase Faith World Church? And I'm not against Faith World Church. I think I ended my speech by saying, give Faith World what it needs, take care of our teens, but do not do this at the expense of our youth. We should not rush. We need to consider everything that needs to be considered. So again, I ask that you do your research, and I see Mr. Minner has put out a nice plan. Thank you for that. That's kind of what was needed and what came out of last week. No one can tell me, what is the goal? Do you owe something to Faith World? You need to help them? Then help them. I don't know what your goal is. We heard last week Apostle Williams talk about how he needed help with his church. He didn't get it. If Faith World needs some help, then please separate that out from the teen center.
Could you please start wrapping up, please? Your time is up.
Yes,
Ms.
thank
Taylor,
you.
please stop. Your time is up.
You said
Thank you.
start to close or it's closed?
Well, the 2-minute commercial didn't help your time, so thank you.
2-minute commercial. I ask you, come out and join the NAACP so that we can be a united community. And in closing, I ask the commissioners to please accept Mr. Minner's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Kevin Blair. I haven't been in the community a long time. We bought here in 2007. Your commissioners have a very hard task before you. I ask you, what is this about? This is about helping the teens. Has nothing to do with Faith World or New Building. In my eyes, it doesn't. Although I am a member of Faith World, what I think the issue here is the kids. How many parents here, not grandparents, just parents, where are your kids? They're not here. They're not making their voice known. What's important is we get them kids into a program. Is it worth?
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Is it worth? How much is your kid's life's worth? Are you going to wait 2 years? You're looking at 2 years to build a new building? Is that realistic? Is it really going to take 2 years? Or is it going to take 3 years, 4 years with everything? These kids need some place to go now, even if it's only in the meanwhile. They need a place now. Is one kid's life worth all this bickering? I know I have kids, and my kids' lives are invaluable. They're worth something. So I'd just like to say that I think we need to do something for the kids, not bicker among us. Do something, whatever it is. But they need something soon. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to talk. My name is John Lapham. I live in Leesburg. I see that we are talking about two things here tonight: our children, our grandchildren, and a building for activities. Most important first, the children. Fathers, it is our responsibility as fathers to train up a child in the way they should go. And when they are older, they will not depart. It's not a school's responsibility or the mother's responsibility, although thank God for you mothers, because I know some of you mothers don't have husbands. So you do the best you can, and you take the place of a father, and it's very hard. God bless you for your stamina and your courage. Stick in there, girl. You're okay. So it's up to the fathers. You're concerned about your children and your grandchildren, look to the fathers, talk to the fathers. Fathers, are you doing your job? Trust in God, it's your only hope. As for a building, the earth is God's footstool, and we sure have made a heck of a mess of it. I was reading in Nehemiah in the Old Testament, in particular chapter 3, where all I read is repair, 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 repair. I think that's what we ought to do. Take the waste places of the city and rebuild. We've ruined God's earth. Let's take back what we've ruined and bring it back to something that can be proud of. And as far as finding new places to build, leave the earth alone, will you? Let God have his earth. We only mess it up. Let him have it. And then we'll have the birds chirping and singing outside our windows again. Think about it. God bless you. Amen.
Thank you.
Mayor Dennison, commissioners, and all of you who are here tonight. I am Pastor Hurley from the church you're all talking about. And Commissioner Christian said today earlier that there's been a lot of misinformation out there, and there has been a lot of misinformation in the community as well as here in this meeting tonight. We're talking about Leesburg needing a youth center. I'm going to tell you what Leesburg really needs. Leesburg really needs a healer. We need a revival of love. We need to come together as a people. Our church is not closing down. We are expanding and moving forward. We have outgrown our facilities. We're not going out of business or shut down, as some have said. I stand to profit nothing from this sale. My son, who is a commissioner, stands to profit nothing from this sale. Some have said it's really fishy that the pastor has a son who's a commissioner. Well, let me ask you something. If any one of you had something to buy and the city wanted to buy it, would you not sell it to them because you had a relative that worked for the city? That's ridiculous. Come on, let's come together here. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's look at it the way it really is. There's nothing fishy going on here. We're expanding. We have a building that is for sale. And I will say this, if God is really in the expansion of Faith World, we don't need Leesburg's money or the NAACP's approval. God will make it happen. We're here tonight because we do have a building for sale, and anybody that wants to buy it can buy it, and the city expressed an interest they might want to buy it. And that is why I'm here. Now, let me talk about this old building. If I were a betting man, I'm not. I've never bet on anything in my life, but if I were, I'd bet most of you live in older buildings. And those of you who live in new homes have already had to make some adjustments in them. That's just a part of owning a building or property. It's an old building, but it's very much like this one. Somebody said our old building doesn't have any technology. What kind of technology has this thing got in it? We have internet in our church. We have sheetrock walls in our building. We have glass in our building. We have carpet on our floors. We have big open rooms like this. But we didn't have to put our air conditioner duct on the outside. It's in the ceiling. So we may have an older building, but it is up to code. Somebody said the first thing you have to do is bring it up to code. It is up to code. We bought that building, I forget how many years ago, 20-some years ago, and it was a mess. We paid about $300,000
Pastor Hurley, please
for
start
it,
wrapping up. Your
and
time
we
is
have
up.
spent another tremendous amount of money on it. But it is an older building, but it is not run down. It is not shabby. It is up to code. We've put new roof on it in the last couple of years. We've upgraded everything that needed to be, electrical and plumbing, and it is a good building, and you can make good dreams there, just like you do where you work in your old building and where you worship in your old building and where you live in your old house.
Thank you, sir.
So I encourage
Thank you.
you to...
Thank you.
There's a proverb that says, speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves. Good evening, my name is Dr. Erica Jasper, and I'm here tonight for two reasons. Number one, I want to give kudos to our city manager, Al Minner, for being so open, so honest, and so bold with doing your research and bringing it back to the city commissioner tonight. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I also want to encourage the city council if they would vote for his recommendation. Secondly, the pastor talked about miscommunication and misinformation that's out in the field. I just want to talk about something that's out in social media. There was a comment that was made on a social media Facebook page, and I'll read it. And it reads, this could be the new teen center on Main Street next month for less than $1 million. For less than $1 million, fact check. One commissioner, the NAACP and the CDC wants us to build a new building in Carver Heights for $3 million that the kids would get into three years. I just want to fact check those facts. That is not true. One commissioner does not make all the decisions for this commission. As you can see, we have very educated and very scholarly individuals on this panel to make these decisions. The NAACP does not make the decisions for this city, and the CDC definitely does not make all the decisions for this city. So I just want to encourage the city council tonight to go with the recommendations that our city manager has researched tonight, and I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wendell Perry. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I spent 18 years in the school system as a school resource officer. People, our kids don't like old. They don't like old. I have a 2-year-old grandson that works my iPad better than I do. You put them in an old building, they're not coming. They want new technology, something fresh, brand new. I'm not talking about black kids. I'm talking about our kids. Black, white, green, yellow, all of them. Again, I spent 18 years in the school system. And the kids know, when I walked in the classroom, I had 2 words, by choice or by force. Are you going to force them in that old building? Or give them a choice of something they can be proud of? Something they want to go to. You talk about transportation, you're going to have to get buses, you're going to have to get vans to get our kids there anyway. Do it. City Manager Committee, Al, I appreciate what you've done. Please, go with his recommendation. Give our kids something to be proud of. Something we as parents and grandparents can be proud of sending our kids to. Not something they got to work on every other year. Close down because this is not working, that's not working. I don't care what you do. An old building is an old building. If you want to move your church, buy another one. Use that as your youth center. But give our kids an opportunity to have something we can all be proud of. The city of Leesburg can be proud of. Let's be the forefront of Lake County. Do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Matthew Turner. I just want to start by saying we've heard some really ridiculous conversation go on here tonight. It's a shame that our kids that are here in this room have to watch what us adults have gotten ourselves into with some of this conversation that's going on. The fact of the matter is that this has been years in the works because there's a need in Leesburg to help children that are in need, that have less than maybe others do, that have one parent less at home than maybe others do, that don't have quite the income so their mom and dad can put them in a paid-for program like other kids might be able to. And the reason we're here is because all the time leading up to the point when a solution to that problem was presented, people are saying all of a sudden we're trying to hurry up and get this done. No, this has been needing to be done for years. The reason we're having this conversation is because the solution that was presented was something that other people didn't care for. They say, we want new, we don't want old. Let me tell you something about old. I like to watch the auto trade auction sometimes on TV, and I'm going to tell you, Some of the most expensive cars in America are some of the oldest cars in America. So don't tell me just because a building is 60 years old or 70 years old or 80 years old that you can't take funds that are available, you can't take a vision, you can't take the fortitude that you have and make it the dream center, youth center, teen center that our kids need. Yes, you can. And yes, we can if we do it together. The reason that Faith Word was considered had nothing to do with who the pastor was, and it had nothing to do with who sits on our commission. It had to do with the fact of where it's located. It's a geographical, economical, sensible, common sense solution to the problem that's staring, to the issue that's staring everybody in the face. It'll cost the city nothing and leave them a surplus of funds to make it a dream center if you want to, or to use that money in a different location and have more than one. Do what you want to with the surplus money. But the fact of the matter is, with this option, you'll have a surplus of money. Let's not be so ridiculous and so narrow-minded just because we're on one side or another. And cause our children to sit and watch us have these bickering kind of arguments. We have a common sense solution staring us in the face to meet a need that's been staring us in the face. Why don't we just do what makes sense?
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hannah Thompson. I'm 12 years old, and my family has been in children's ministry for a very long time. I've seen lots of children on the streets, homeless on drugs, and on all kind of messes. I think this teen center needs to happen now because kids don't want to go to teen centers when they're 17 or 18. They want to go when they're 15 or 14. Think of all the kids that are going to be on the streets by then. Think of the potential lives that will be lost if we don't get this building now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kimberly DeRoche. Very nervous, sorry. I live on Vine Street. I'm the only person I've heard here tonight that actually lives in the neighborhood where Faith Community or Faith Church is. Most of my neighbors are elderly and they are not on the internet, so they have not heard about the potential youth center being built there. I absolutely support a youth center for kids. I'm a former teacher from Ohio years ago, so I absolutely think it's necessary. I support it 100%. That being said, after listening to everyone this evening and seeing that now a Part D option has been put on the table too, I think you guys really, I'm sorry, this might be unpopular with everybody, need to do a needs assessment, and you need to do a survey so that everybody in the community can fairly be approached and give their opinion, and everyone can have a say, and everyone will know what you guys are up to, since I know a lot of people in my neighborhood aren't. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brianna Kuzar, and I hear the talk about expansion, and I hear the talk about the church in question is expanding. They're not going out of business. They're not. They're moving because the church is too small. It doesn't hold what the people they need to hold in. So what happens when the youth center, if we put it there, becomes that issue day one? What happens when every parent in this room sends their child to that particular building and it's too small? We've renovated, we spent money on a property we can no longer utilize for the same reason it's being sold for, because it's too small. It's not big enough to house the vision. It's not big enough to house the dream. If I send my kids from my church and say, hey, let's go to the youth center, and it's too small, they're gonna be mad, because they're gonna say, Miss Bree, it's too small. It's too many of us in here. It's too hot because it's too small. So you're telling me you want to send kids to a place that we're going to push them all in because we want the right now effect and not the big picture effect, which is we need to have something big that they can grow in, that they can succeed in, that's theirs. So when this is all said and done, you want to push them into a small building? There's no way. That's not even right. That's not even logical. So when you think about this, think about future. My future says, oh, I can ride past the new teen center. It's big enough. Now, if we can do it, now let's do it like this. If we get something new and we max it out day one, that means we didn't think big enough. If we max this teen center out day one, we didn't think big enough. So when we think about our youth and all the kids that were here, I seen a sign that says, I'm too young to care. Baby, you too young not to care. You know why? Because this is about you. This is about my little brothers and sisters. I can say, listen, you're going to this building. It's big enough to house everything you want to do in it. It's big enough there. I'm pretty sure there's people in the room that will say, okay, I'm going to support. I'll volunteer. I'm 26, no kids, but I'll volunteer. I do it now. Y'all worried about transportation. Transportation will take care of itself.
Please start wrapping up. Your time
Yes,
is
ma'am,
up.
I definitely will.
Thank you.
Don't push us into a small building that we're going to max out day one. I guarantee you we're going to max it out day one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brianna Shaw, and I am a Leesburg native. I was not going to speak. However, I've been compelled to speak because myself, I was raised here, and there were not a whole lot of things for teenagers like myself to do. If it was not for cheerleading in the community and at the high school, dance teams, people like Pastor Ken, people like Mr. Purnell and Miss Ruby, people like Pastor Christian, those teens that were in my generation would have been lost. I'm not saying that it's, a horrible ideal to buy a faith world. I'm not saying it's a horrible ideal to build new, but I do feel like there are personal agendas for those who oppose. I've watched people who have opposed laugh and snicker when those who are on the other side go to speak. So when you're not the person with the skin in the game, don't find it odd because we want something new and something better and something state of the art for our children. My question to you would be, are your children going to attend it, whether it's at the Faith Center or the New Center? Are your children going to come across to that facility, no matter where it's located, and be where my children would be? Okay? So those are the things that I ask of you. Don't laugh and snicker at those of us who are, finding this important and finding this urgent and a need for our kids. Are your children the children that are going to the Boys and Girls Club currently? I can probably tell you no. So again, before you laugh and you snicker and you say no to this, think about the fact that your children most likely are not going to be the ones attending this. And think about other people's children who need something like this. Again, my name is Brianna Shaw. I am a person who lives here, and I am very, very, thankful for tonight's meeting, and I will be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Roderick Williams, and I was at the last meeting and just being here, just kind of listening to everything, and I was like her, wasn't going to say anything, but I feel like God is just really pushing me to really say something. First of all, I was raised in the Boys and Girls Club all my life, all the way up until 18. But let me tell you something I can only talk from experience. I don't want to talk anything that I don't know because I hear a lot of that. The Boys and Girls Club, we started off in a big warehouse, which was the old Boys and Girls Club. But we shifted over to a new building, brand new facility. The excitement of the children that was in there, to see United Way and all the other organizations pulling together to build that building, that was the excitement that was in the children. So I think at the end of the day, we as adults, we can sit here big and argue, but what do the kids want? What do the kids want? And I just want to piggyback on something that I heard the commissioner say. The Boys and Girls Club in Ocala has this, the new building, the new structure. They have this huge building with a gymnasium. But right on the side of it, they have the teen center. So they're almost the same exact thing of what you're saying if you're going to put it there in Carver Heights. I don't know, I heard them talk about the one in Orlando. I haven't seen that. But if you look up the one that's in Ocala, it's identical to what you're saying. So that means it's already a proven system that it works. And also just give you information about me. I sat on the Boys and Girls Club alumni. I was the president of the Boys and Girls Club alumni in Ocala, Florida. But I also had the chance of sitting on the board to represent the Boys and Girls Club alumni. And by me sitting on that board, I was able to voice things that the kids need to be voiced of what they wanted for the betterment. But also, I think it's half and half of what the kids want and what they need, which is great development. So having the resources in there to help with that, the developmental skills and bringing them up. Also, I was on the leadership as far as Keystone. So there's many different things in the Boys and Girls Club that a lot of people that haven't attended, that they don't know. So I'm talking from an inside perspective that the system does work, and putting something right on the side, it does work because I've seen it work. Amen.
Thank you.
Good evening. There's been a lot been said, and speaking from an emotional standpoint, I'm going to speak on that a little bit, but more so, I'm a development and economic development consultant, and some of the things that you all are talking about, specifically related to budgets and things like that, the impact of a center, whatever you decide to do, will have an effect. Leesburg as a whole, just from my perspective and being here in Lake County for pretty much most of my life, has been stagnant. If you want to bring people to this city and grow it economically, a state-of-the-art center will do that. It will help that. You say that it may have an impact on your budget. Yes, it will. But there's a flip side to that. There's a reduction in use of funding in other areas, such as health, your police department. All of these things have an impact on that. You want people to be here. Businesses come, why? Schools and opportunities for their youth. That's what their employees want. So if you do that, you're not just talking about a building, you're talking about something that emphasizes and gives pride. And I'm going to speak to pride. This building and this lake here is a sense of pride for Leesburg. Location means everything. So having a building, whether you're saying, well, you know, it shouldn't be on this side or that side because of where it's at, and try and split hairs of, well, it's on the black side of the community. People don't want to address the issue, but sometimes it has to be addressed. And I'm here to address that. Yes, they need something there. Yes, I've done needs assessments, community assessments, I've done it all. But so often we do so many assessments, the data's right there. It's only been a few months ago, the school was one of the worst schools in the state. That's a needs assessment. Talk to the parents. You want people to get involved, do community benefits agreement. Something that a lot of people in this room may not know about. Put the city on notice. If you enter into an agreement, demand a community benefits agreement that says, you do this, this is how we benefit. But on the other side, they do this, these are things that the community must be involved in. Public-private partnership. True public-private partnership will get you there. And it doesn't have to just be the money from the city or the CDBG. I write grants, I do all of that. So the thing is, there are foundations, there are other people out there that will assist and support you in getting these things done. I'm not a resident of Leesburg, so maybe my opinion doesn't mean much, but guess what? I work with youth here, I have family members here, and if you don't do it here, guess what? Your dollars can house them in Tavares or wherever else. You need something like this. And it's not a matter of it being new or old. There's an excitement and there's pride. Real estate agents say what? Location means everything. There are other ways to do it, guys. And it doesn't have to be an either or. And it doesn't have to be, okay, we do this 2 years down the road. You make it sound like if we do wait for 2 years, that everything stops. You can still
Please
present.
start to wrap it up, sir. Your time is up.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
And the thing is, just look at it as a whole. Economics matter, emotions matter, but I can speak to it from economic development. This is something that will be helpful not only for that community, but also in the economics of that community, and they need it. Thank you.
Sir, before you leave, could we have your last name?
Walker.
Walker, thank you very much.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Claude Desrochers, and married to Kimberly here, so I do live on Vine Street, where Faith Church is as well. I haven't heard of the project until very recently, like she mentioned, and to be honest, I have mixed feelings about it, but it is really about the kids. It needs to be about the kids, and it needs to remain about the kids. And as I could see, I just understood this is your son sitting over there. He is the one pushing the hardest to make it quick, to make it for the kids, and I can see the conflict of interest that could have happened here or not.
Sir, please speak into the microphone.
Yep, so I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm a little nervous. You mentioned we need a healer in this community, and obviously this community could use both buildings, but we can't afford both. Could your church do something and donate the building or really reduce the price so we could do both projects? I mean, it really is about the kids. Everybody says that. Your son's first one to, about the kids. You said you built your church already, you're moving, you're growing, business is good, economy is good. Why not do something about those kids? If it's really about the kids, let's do it. Let's get that one going. It could be done now. The kids have a place to go, and they can also have a smaller one, newer one in process somewhere else. With the right healer, Leesburg could have both.
My name's Howard Fay, and I'd like to see the city of Leesburg put more sidewalks for our communities, and also have seats like you sit there wait for the bus. It's awful hard to sit if you don't have no place to sit down for waiting for the bus. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fay.
My name is David Bach. I had two sons that went to Leesburg High School. So you're not aware, you have one of your highways here in Leesburg named after our son. You as a group have a tough decision, and it's a financial decision in my opinion. You want a community center. Is that your 3-year goal? What's your 5-year and 10-year? Once you make a commitment to a community center, it just can't be in the next 2 years or 3 years. What is it going to be in 5 years? What's it going to be in 20 years? Those are some tough decisions. And then what do the kids need 10 years from now or 5 years from now? Let me ask you a question. I had a 20-year-old the other day ask me what my first phone number was. Did any of you know what your first phone number was?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Mine was 2 longs and 1 short. Can any of you remember that? That was our first phone number. Phones have changed. Have you ever heard the 10,000 steps? Does anybody know where that came from? You have to walk 10,000 steps to, get your heart in shape. That came from the Fitbit. which then in turn led your phone on your wrist. So what is our technology 5 years from now, 20 years from now? But it's up to you to put the budget together and come together. You're going to have to say, are we really committed to the center, community center? And if we are we going to be able to put the technology in that the kids want today, that they're going to want in 5 years? How many of you can remember when the first cell phone came out? Amazing, isn't it? How many kids have cell phones now? How many kindergartens have cell phones now? What are they going to need 5, 10, 15 years from now? So that's all I'm asking. Look at your budget. Don't think of just now and 2 years from now, but make a commitment to it. Yes, I understand the 7 years. I went through that before when I wanted to put a 10-year reunion together for 9/11. That's all I ask. Make a commitment to the center, but make sure it's longer than just 2 or 5 years. Look at the 20 years and make sure the money is there for it. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to move ahead with this right now. On the agenda is a resolution authorizing the city manager to inform Lake County CDBG, that's the extra money that the county would pay us, of the city's intent to build a teen enrichment center at the Leesburg Gymnasium site. Now, commissioners, it's a yes or no, and if you need to put an amendment or anything else, fine, but right now it's a yes or no, just to give Al the permission to inform the county that we will build. Roll call.
Roll call.
Yep.
I mean, you're gonna get a very different vote from me than if we can discuss this. So.
If you want to discuss, go ahead.
Okay.
I think it will be one more round of discussion. Yeah, I think so.
Because I don't know where everyone is, and that really impacts where I am. Because sitting through this, everyone's very certain of what we should do one way or another. And I'll just say that I used to certainly be that way. I was very certain about everything. And after being on this board for 5 years, you learn that nothing works that way, and that things that I think I'm certain about, I end up being wrong about. And I may be wrong about what I do tonight. But I would hope that as long as you came here with a viewpoint, whether it's to build a new one or to buy the faith world, those seem to be very strong opinions that we heard one way or another, and dismissive of everyone else's opinion. We hear the snickering, we hear the clapping for the ones you like. But I would hope that whatever we do tonight, if our decision is to buy Faith World and do a teen center, or to build a new one, if our decision ends up in a teen center, and you were on the other side, that you walk away tonight saying, you know what, I may have not got what I wanted, but the city got a teen center, and I'm going to support it. Because I may not get the decision I want, but if we get a teen center, I'm going to be happy and I'm going to support it. So that being said, where I am, I don't buy the argument that it needs to be new. I don't know, maybe new would be better. My number one preference would be I would be willing to offer somewhere up to $800,000 on Faith World with a 90-day due diligence period to figure out what it worked, and that would all be contingent on CDBG, Boys and Girls Club, all that we talked about before. If the votes aren't there for that, then I'm going to vote to move forward with building a new one on the gym site. So that's where I am.
Thank you. Commissioner Peterson?
I'll start with Faith World. I hear where Dan's at. I'm a commercial realtor. I know values in the market. I did some analysis on this, and I'm not at 800. I can get close. I hate to dispute an appraisal, but I'm probably 100,000 below that, and it's just hard for me as a real estate professional to overpay for something. So I struggle with that. I hear all the comments on the new one. I said earlier I'd like 2 locations. I hear the need in Carver Heights, and I've always liked the location next to the gym. I was just looking online. The gymnasium is 14,000 square feet. So I just cannot support a 10,000 square foot building next to a 14,000 square foot facility. I could get on board with, a 5,000 square foot building if the commission wanted to think about that, with a plan maybe to do something somewhere else in the city to better serve the entire community, since we can't come to agreement on this as a community. But so I know I'm showing some indecision there, but I'm not going to support 10,000 square foot building at the gym site.
I agree with Commissioner Roebuck. I mean, for me, I support in just being fair to Faith World. I'm sorry, my throat. Being fair, a lot of people are forgetting, but the Faith World Church started out at 1.2 million. It's what they thought it was worth, and then the city got an appraisal with comps, and then the church got appraisal with comps, and it was a total of 7 different comps, I believe, between the two of them, and they came to the million. And then when the commission expressed that they thought, even though they had those 2 different appraisals, that it was maybe a little bit too rich for that piece of property. So now the church expressed that they would negotiate that price. So, I would support if there was a number that we could give to Faith World, and their church board and district could approve that, then I would support that. And then if obviously that doesn't go off the table, we'd have to figure out what the next option is for a teen center.
Well, I'm hearing everyone's comments, and however, I do agree that a new teen center is the way Leesburg should go. And I hear Commissioner Peterson saying this support is 10,000 square foot is just too large. And I guess what complicates it is if we go to the Boys and Girls Club and say, give us your $500,000, would they be okay building a 5,000 square foot teen center? Or would they say, okay, we understand 10 may be too much, but can we do 7,000? And I don't know how that affect the grant with the county. So, I just don't know. But I think for me, it's still, and I'm not opposed to building a smaller facility. I still think a new facility is what our city deserves, needs to be competitive. When I go to other cities, Eustis, Mount Dora, even Wildwood, their city managers and city commissioners, they ask me about the work that Leesburg is doing. They're not asking about the community center. They're asking about how did you guys do a resource center. And if you didn't know, the resource center was paid for almost $1 million+ from a grant. And the other $1 million was financed through the CRA, which pays it every year about $100,000. So those facilities are not taxpayer fully funded. Majority of that comes from grant money. We built this building, and I can remember, it's ringing in my ear because the discussion was, do we tear down the old community building or build a brand new community center? It was echoed loudly, of course, by Commissioner Hurley, and it was the quality of life, Leesburg's quality of life. We need quality of life, so we can't build old, we have to build brand new. So we tore this building down, even got to so much as do we just put drywall up here, or do we do this big, nice facility so we can see out at $700,000. First we voted no, not to do a 3-2, then we came back and we found the $700,000 so we can have this nice aesthetics. So when I compare $700,000 for this, as opposed to spending 1.5 for a teen center, everybody talked about the kids, and it was amazing and nice that everybody was very concerned about kids that are struggling. I heard some comments about the single mamas doing it for your daddies and all this kind of stuff. I cringed when I heard someone make that statement, assuming that these are single mamas in here. It made me cringe, and I realized we got a lot of work to do. I see people bring signs in from a small age, and I said, one sign says, I don't live in Carver Heights. And I said to myself, wow, I wonder was there a teaching lesson behind that sign? I wonder when we wrote that sign, did we teach anything, or are we perpetuating it? Maybe 15 years from now, we still have division. One thing we talk to our young people, and we're modeling their minds, and they come in sessions like that, they need to see and hear the snickering. When people are really concerned about their children, our city, our community. Because believe it or not, Leesburg has not been fair to an overall city. I hear y'all talking. I grew up on Vine Street, 2104 Vine Street. I grew up on Vine Street. My mom and dad still lives on Vine Street. And the only way they knew about this is because I told them they were involved. But I'm very remiss to hear us not say the same type of facility that we built here, the same type of swimming pool that we're going to build. In fact, we pretty much said a swimming pool, there is no budget. We'll just build it. We need to buy some more property, let's buy it. We'll make it look good. But when it comes to our kids, we start nickel and diming. Let's not nickel and dime, because see, I didn't just show up tonight or last meeting. I'm sitting here trying to build a consensus. I'm sitting here trying to make sure that every part of our city is represented. Every part of our city can ride down the road and say, that's a city building. That's somebody cares about. And I want you to miss this point. Leesburg has a couple revitalization areas where the city paid consultants to go through our communities and determine this area needs to be revitalized. This doesn't happen on accident. You have to purposely remodel and redevelop the problem areas in your city. See, tonight we come, we say, I don't live in Carver Heights. Why are we putting everything in Carver Heights? Then the next breath, Carver Heights got problems. Carver Heights got too much crime. If you're gonna fix the crime, invest money where the problem is. Let's not pretend like Carver Heights don't have problems. Let's not pretend like East Leesburg is having problems. And our staff was with the swimming pool. We were buying property. We displaced some people. And a lot of people didn't care. But guess who had to deal with those displaced people in the neighborhood? John Christian. Why the city kicking us out? Why the city making us move? Nobody else probably had to deal with that conversation. I'm on the street talking, just having a conversation. Guy walked up to me, liberated, and he just pretty much just started going off. That $1,000 didn't mean anything, but I got to deal with that. So what I'm saying, I hope that to tell you this right here. We're making decisions tonight. Ask yourself why. Let me flip it. If it was my daddy's church that we were getting ready to buy, would the same support being here say, let's do it? That's the question I want to ask you. And I don't want to make this personal, but for me, this is a long fight just to get us to consider and talk about a teen center. You heard the city manager say, I put 1.5 in the budget, and it wasn't a solid, give me 1.5. And we're here talking about how much it's going to cost to build. And we know construction numbers, Dan will tell you, they go up and down, they fluctuate, so we can't really get that. But it's kind of say, when you ask the city manager, how long is it going to take? It's going to take 2 years. Then someone say, oh, it's not going to take 2 years, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. So you can't pick and choose when he knows what he's talking about to benefit your position. Last point, what does Leesburg get for $1.5 million? You get a $2.8 million building. You get almost a $3 million building for half the cost. Think about it. You got 2 years, and I hear, oh, you know, you're gonna lose all these kids in 2 years. Not if you get involved, we won't. We worry about the kids. How many kids are we gonna lose? Why weren't we saying this 2 years ago? Why weren't we so excited 3 years ago? I started a youth program, 1997. Been working it. Got a drum line with 30, 40 kids where we're trying to keep them off the streets. We got mentoring programs. So get involved. So when we come and have these conversations, let's talk what we do know, not because it benefits me. John Christian doesn't benefit. I don't get anything out the deal. Somebody may send an email to the commission. And I want to tell you just how divided we can be sometimes. And I don't know who the person is, so I'm not picking on anybody. But we got an email that says, I'm writing today concerning the Teen Youth Center. I honestly sit baffled that this keeps coming up as being a conflict of interest by Commissioner John Christian. Truth be told, when the city manager sent us our form out of his background, I never questioned his conflict of interest. Point number one. He himself has sold multiple properties to the city at a commission. I'm sure while serving on this board, and no one questioned that it has a conflict. So is it really okay for one commissioner to sell a property that he personally owns, and is not okay for a property to be sold because another commissioner attends a church his father is a pastor of? To the 3 commissioners who are sitting in the middle of this, I have a sincere question for you. Are you really thinking of what is best for all teens in Leesburg by denying the purchase of the church that could be ready in going months at a fraction of the cost to the city of Leesburg? Or are you being bullied to not do what you know is best? Now, the question is, I don't sell property to the city The CDC may sell property, but even in that, I abstain from the vote. Our city attorney is here to make sure that whatever I do, I abstain from the vote. So these are the kind of misinformation that goes around, floats to the commission, and to me, it's division. You're being bullied. Who's bullying you? The little black commissioner bullying everybody else? Come on, give me a break. That's the kind of stuff that happens because we don't agree because it benefits certain people. Listen, if we're going to do what's best for Leesburg, we had 2 weeks of almost 4 hours each conversation about what's best for Leesburg. Someone said about the vision. This is not new. We talked about this many years ago, about building a teen center beside the gymnasium. Now, we may have an issue with size, cost. I'm simply saying, is it not enough to do the best thing for our kids? Or are we going to waffle over $1 million and spend it somewhere else? Where else? Where else are we going to spend it and not invest in our kids? So I would love to see us do a new teen center, whether reduce the size, reduce the cost, whatever. I want to see Leesburg build a new state-of-the-art teen center. And someone asked about this building. If you look behind us right here, you got all the technology in the wall. You plug right in the wall, you got your video screens, it's right here. Because you build new, you're paying for it. We're playing for a sound system. Al and I went back and forth because I said, you can't bring people here and don't have a quality sound system. Those are type things when you plan a new facility, you think of all those things, what didn't work in the old building, what works in the new building. So I ask my commissioners to reach deep inside themselves and say, if we can build this $9+ million building with no regards, with little regard to budget, let's not shortchange our children who we've got half of the money through grant and partnership. It's a win for Leesburg. For the next 50 years, we got a state-of-the-art building. So I asked my commissioners, we got this smaller, make the building smaller, but let's build this new teen center.
Thank you, Commissioner. I go back to my the original resolution authorizing the city manager to inform Lake County CDBG of the city's intent to build a teen enrichment center at the Leesburg Gymnasium site. We vote yes or no on this, just to give the city manager permission to go back. This does not tie us up with anything as far as design, as far as what's going to be in it. This is strictly to tell the county this is where it's going.
Well, that's difficult for me to vote on because of how I started my whole conversation, which is, you know, the community is divided, so I guess I just need to understand more clearly what I'm voting on. Am I voting on a, 10,000 square foot building or a 5,000 or?
Well,
because
this hasn't been determined yet.
I guess I also do not want to talk about this again in a meeting. So I also want to resolve it.
The only other result I can see is to pull it from there and
Well, that's how I started the
push it
meeting,
down the
but
road.
Well, I'll make a motion that we make an offer to Faith World to see if they'll accept it.
Is there a price?
You said what, 800?
I said 800. Commissioner Peterson said that was too high for him.
This should not be discussed tonight. Yes or no? No, we push it down the road. Yes, we go ahead with this.
Madam Manager, I got one question to Commissioner Peterson's point. And we vote to build a new teen center. Does that restrict us to 10,000 square foot?
No, that's not on this at all.
Okay, so Al, you can come back with a smaller footprint with the parties involved, getting clearance for the Boys and Girls Club and the county?
I would say that we don't have to commit to 10,000 square feet. As the price drops and the percentages of the grant are changed, we could lose a couple of grant dollars in there. So I would advise to be flexible and
I
keep
appreciate John's
cognizant
clarification.
the
and I
grant
hope-
percentage in there. So everybody understand?
All right, then I'll amend my motion to be this, just to get it settled off the table, whatever you want to do. I make a motion to offer Faith World $750,000 for their property.
Second.
We have a motion on the table. There's
we
a
got a
motion on the table to instruct the city manager. So can they table the motion on the table? Like, just table it for 5 minutes and then deal with Jay's? So somebody needs to make a motion. You've got a motion on the floor right now to do the recommendation. which is to instruct me to go build new and get with CDBG. So you can't vote on your motion until you vote on this. So my suggestion would be table the motion that's on the floor for 5 minutes, take your vote on the offer, and then untable the motion that's on the floor.
I see. So who made that motion?
So if Commissioner Hurley, if you want to see if the commission will buy Faith World Church for $750 or 7,000, there's a K on there, there's zeros. So if you want to see if the commission wants to purchase the church for $750,000, make a motion to table the motion that's on the floor for 5 minutes and vote on
Okay, so I make a motion that we table the current motion that's on the floor at this
Can he
time.
put all those together? Table it and vote all in one?
No.
No, yeah, table it first and then make your motion for
I second
750.
the motion to table.
Okay.
Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Christian?
No.
Commissioner Peterson?
No.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Mayor Dennison?
No.
Can we vote on the motion on the
Now you got yeah, that was a motion to table, so now you're back to the vote on the floor, which is the recommendation.
And I call for the question.
So which one are we on now?
Now you're voting on whether to vote on the motion.
This is the original motion.
But you gotta
Yeah.
vote on calling the question.
Okay.
With
yeah.
the understanding
I'm just trying to
that-
make sure I know what I'm voting on.
You're voting on calling the question, so that's a vote to stop debate, and then you move into the motion on the floor.
The motion.
Call to
Ends
stop.
debate. Then we go on the motion that's on the floor.
I've lost, man, I'm sorry. I don't know which
Did I
motion's on the
got that
floor
right,
now.
right. Yeah.
Mr. Morrison, would you like to explain this to them?
What, just tell me what we're voting on this time, so I know.
You're
which
voting
way.
on stopping debate.
Stopping discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner Christian moved to call the question,
Oh, I see.
and that would terminate discussion and move you immediately to a vote if that passes.
I see, okay.
Meaning a vote on having the city manager go back to the CDBG grant and say, yes, we're gonna build a new building on the gymnasium site.
Okay.
That's all the other motion is. It's not the size of the building, the design of the building, or anything.
It's just to tell the
the
county
site
to give us the money.
in the new
Yeah,
building.
I just got lost there for a minute.
Okay. So the vote is, are we tabling the motion?
No, calling the question.
Calling the question.
So the vote is, are we calling the question?
Right, to
Right,
end
so we
debate.
end debate and vote on the motion.
Oh.
So you got
Welcome
another
to
vote coming.
Robert's Rules.
I'm trying my very best to keep up. My brain's tired. I think I got it.
Commissioner Peterson?
I'm not clear.
This is just to end discussion.
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
No.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Mayor Dennison?
Yes.
Now you have to vote on the
This-
question on the floor, which is to instruct the city manager to get with
Which is
CDBG.
letter M in your agenda. M is in man, an agenda. Okay?
Okay.
You clear on that now?
I think I'm up to speed now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Roll call.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
No.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Dennison?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we are instructing Al Minner to go to the county and let them know about the money from the county that the city intends to build a teen enrichment center at the Leesburg Gymnasium site. Okay, we're going to, I have to make a side comment. I know this is not the usual, but you told me that you were not going to support the Boys and Girls Club in the church. I certainly hope you're going to support the Boys and Girls Club in the gymnasium. There are no informational reports tonight. City Attorney items.
Just briefly, Mayor, with regard to the MAI engineering claim that you authorized the
Yes.
last time, word must have gotten back to them. The following Monday, I had a letter come in FedEx with a $3,000 check and an explanation that they had spent $3,500, which would have been the other half of the $6,500 on electrical engineering costs, which were outside the scope of their contract.
Okay.
The city did owe that, and their letter also absolved the city as far as the rest of the bill they were attempting to collect. So
Okay,
that
so
claim
we're
has
clear
been
with
wrapped
them
up,
now?
and the city's recovered everything it was able
Excellent.
to.
Thank you for doing that. City Manager.
No items.
All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Just with the coronavirus stuff coming on, I think it would be a good idea to make sure that we've
Please,
the
quiet.
coronavirus, you know, in China, like we've dusted off our emergency management plan for a pandemic. Probably very unlikely, but always better to be prepared in that. So.
Commissioner Hurley?
No, I thank you.
Commissioner Christian?
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Dennison?
Nothing tonight, thank you. Adjourn? We are adjourned, thank you.